and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adrian, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vigneault,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
and Councilmember Paddock.
Present.
Okay, audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council before we jump into night 2 of our retreat? Is anyone not seeing anyone online? It looks like there's no one tonight. Okay, with that, Andrew, we'll just roll right into it.
Excellent. Welcome, council members, staff, our audience. It's great to be back. So Shaylee, if I can have the PowerPoint in presentation mode, I'm just going to go a few things. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. So this is, as the mayor said, the second of our 2 sessions. I have put all the paperwork back where it was before because it's good resource information. And we completed the first of 5, nailed that pretty quickly. And we spent more time on number 2, but just towards the end, we were really making progress. And we'll go back over that and kind of talk about the questions. I do want to hit a few slides, just kind of recap. We will complete the 4 remaining long-range goals that are prioritized up there. And we're going to use those long-range goals as the lens for developing your shorter-term 2024 priorities. It's the same algorithm that we've done for the last 3 years. So the alignment discussion, essentially, we want to make sure that we're aligned for the long-range goals and it's sequenced as projects, shorter-term initiatives. Also, I want to do a refresher on SMART goals because I think it may help when we're, having discussion. I wouldn't even say struggling. I think that's way too strong of a word. But as we're discussing and kind of narrowing this down to what it is we're trying to say, and I haven't done this for a year or 2, but I just wanted to refresh SMART. The S is for specific, clear, concise statement on what you will accomplish. And through that S lens, that may help us kind of narrow in and finalize this, although we got darn close. Measurement, quantifiable metric, KPI, key performance metric, a key performance indicator, or a unit of measure, a unit to measure progress. However, and I'm going to go to our city manager, Martin, I believe that the KPIs will be part of the budgeting process. Is that correct?
That is correct. As we start to develop our 25-26 budget, each department will be required to provide KPIs for measurement on progress for specific.
Okay, so we won't really focus on the measurement part, knowing that it's going to happen. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's preferable, but if
Okay.
the council decides otherwise, we can address those, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I was recognizing that the KPIs will be developed during the budgeting process. But like Martin said, if council says, hey, here's the perfect KPI, we don't have one in here. Although if we were using the resident survey, then in fact, that would be the measurement tool. Assigned, a person or department is accountable who reports progress. And most of that happens through your city manager. He's constantly reporting on the progress of projects. So we've got that nailed. Realistic, within the realm of possibility, one that's achievable. We don't want to set it, and we had discussions that kind of lowered how aggressive we were going to be on a couple of those. And those conversations were excellent. And it kind of helped us remain steeped in reality. And then finally is time bound. And we've pretty much covered that. For the long range goals, the longest time is December 31st, 2026. So everything we're doing has to be completed by then. When we get to the short range, after we complete those, that is December 31, 2024. Those shorter range initiatives in support of these long-term goals. Any questions about that? as I'm reading this, I'm going, well, we're covering a lot of that, so maybe we didn't need the refresher. I'm not gonna even go through that. I'm just gonna stay here. So we finished number one. The city's vision becomes a reality. City finalizes the funding plan for construction of the DRCC master plan. And when we came to that, it was like, drop the mic. It's like, that's it. That was excellent work. And you've done a lot of work on this. Number two, which is where we're gonna pick up right now, safe and clean, well-maintained Mill Creek. And the working goal we have is the city of Mill Creek is recognized by its residents for being safe, clean, and well-maintained. And we had a few questions that we were gonna try to answer right now at the beginning of our start here. Is this a resident or an operational metric? And we may even want to have staff weigh in on that. The second question, clean and safe community, I think was, what does that mean? And Martin sent out the results, I guess it was yesterday, wasn't it? Of the survey, because we just got that done and tabulated. And would you remind me of what it was talking about when it was talking about safe? Because it wasn't about police, was it, in terms of the survey?
That's correct. The intent of the survey was to make a distinction between, the question is make a distinction between policing, safety from a policing standpoint and also from a public works standpoint. And clean, safe, and well-maintained was reference to only safety from an infrastructure standpoint, streets, street maintenance, safety, ADA requirements, and so forth. So the reason why we got that survey, thanks to Jody, that's the reason why we got that out, and we want to get you the results before this meeting, just to, if you had any questions about that, you can ask Jody, but we wanted to get that out so that you had the sense of what we meant by clean, safe, and well-maintained, and that only referred to the maintenance of our streets, and much of that will be handled through the Safe Streets for All federally funded grant that will support the inventory that we're taking across the city and to figure out how we improve our infrastructure.
So I asked that on purpose at this time, and I'll be honest, it came out yesterday. I haven't read all 50 pages or all 49 pages, but that was something that struck out, and Martin's been helping me, kind of coaching me there. But that addresses this third question: what is the definition of safe? Do council members have any questions based on what the definition that was defined and the way the question was worded in the resident survey? Yeah, John.
Well, seems like we're talking about a couple different things here.
Microphone.
Yeah, one is,
Microphone.
oh, thank you. Seems like we're talking about two different things here. One is, what was the goal that the council was asking about when we say that we're clean, safe, and well-maintained? What do we mean by safe? And so what do we mean by safe is the question. And second is, what was the city defining as safe in the survey they sent out to the residents? Clearly, the city was asking defining to the residents, what do they think about safe in regards to city streets and that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So is that the same thing that the council was thinking about when they had the goal of clean, safe, and well-maintained?
I think that's a question that we should discuss right now. Like you said, we know what the survey's definition
Right,
is.
is that our definition?
Right, and so I want to engage the entire group based on John's question. And I'm just like, anybody that has something that they want to share in terms of what they were thinking when you came up with it, but you all voted for it. It was the second highest voted category. Stephanie?
Thank you. For me on this particular one, I was thinking about, well, from an infrastructure or keeping things clean and the safety being from taking care of things, making sure the parks are in good order so that they're safe, that there's nothing damaged and broken. I'm trying to remember last year's discussion for this headline. I think we'd mentioned stuff like making sure the bushes are trimmed back so that you can see when a bicycle is coming or turning. So to me, for this particular one, that was the definition of safe, clean and well maintained, because it goes in with what I was thinking last year. When we had the phrase say Mill Creek, including streets, sidewalks and medians are clean, safe and well maintained.
Got it.
So that is, and that's also why Councilmember Duque and I had both mentioned, and there's another one up there, and my eyesight's not good enough to read this far away, where we did put one for policing up there, because last year we did have them as separate categories.
We did, but it didn't bubble up in terms of the votes. We've
Correct.
got number one, clean, vision becomes a reality. That facility, we've nailed that landing. This is the one we're on, safe, clean. And so far, I've heard from one council member that had the same definition as what our discussion was last year and what Martin maintained. The third is stimulate economic development. Big category, very important. And in fourth place was the city sets annexation plan. So I'd like to hear from some other council members, please. I'm kind of taking a tally as you share. Maybe it'd be easier and faster just to say, does anybody have a problem with this, the way we're wording it, focused on the infrastructure and, you know, the streets and all of that kind of thing? Does anybody have any heartburn over that?
So when we were talking about this last week, and even when we've talked about it in the past, I've always thought it was the overall picture that our goal, and even when we were trying to massage a sentence last week, it was the idea of molding the two together. Correct, included with public safety. I think that was the rub we had last week of not being able to articulate
Okay.
a proper sentence. And that's how I personally see it. I think that's kind of our niche as well. I mean, folks know the other side of 132nd is a little bit different than it is here. So it is a very brandable aspect of the city.
Did you have your hand up, John?
I did. I was gonna say, I don't have a definite problem, but my opinion, I thought it was always about personal safety. Right? Was thinking of clean, safe and well maintained.
So
To me,
public
it was
safety.
Personal public safety. That was always what I was thinking.
Got it. Sean, what were you thinking? Same thing?
No,
No.
the same thing that, Councilman Pebble.
Microphones, please.
Okay, so public safety.
No, sorry, the two combined, the public safety, that broad description of public and personal and well-maintained safety.
Got it. Thank you for that clarity. Brian?
I think they should be separate. I think that was the point that Mayor Pro Tem was trying to make, that last year we identified these as separate goals. We had one for traditional public safety and another for safe. I think, to me, the issues about the infrastructure being safe is, it's safe if it's well maintained. If we maintain the sidewalks, we're not gonna have tripping hazards. And so that's why I don't view safety as a infrastructure issue. I believe that as a maintenance, I see that as a maintenance issue.
Okay, so are you on the side of the infrastructure, public safety, or combined both together?
Infrastructure,
Infrastructure, okay.
which would suggest taking out the reference to safe in my
And-
mind.
Okay, I've heard from Stephanie. Connie?
Yeah, for me, it's the infrastructure element, but having a safe infrastructure, you know, you can't maintain the roads if you don't have a good yard to use for the sand
Equipment,
and trucks and all of that. So,
and that could be a strategy underneath and in support of the goal,
Right.
the yard. Okay, great. So infrastructure. How about you, Melissa?
So I had it as separate, and that's why I think I was the only one then who voted for the other version of the public safety, if my 2020 eyesight says right, the city for safety through technology or something like that. So I was the one who voted for that one because I was viewing them as, based off of our
Two different
conversation,
things.
viewing them as two separate things.
So
Initially,
which one
I,
you're viewing as infrastructure?
correct, because for safety, just it's also that, you know, swings and the structures are there.
Okay. Well, and we're split 4-3. 4 of you, which constitutes a majority, are thinking infrastructure. 3 of you combine. How about this? How about I mean, remember, we're only doing 4 because we didn't have a 5th bubble up and we agreed that we'd be accepting to that. What about having this focused on the infrastructure conversation and add the 5th one as the public safety issue? So we're covering both. Would that be an acceptable remedy?
Yes.
Actually, may I just point of clarification? You said 4-3.
Yeah, 4, we're on the infrastructure side. 3, we're about combining infrastructure and public safety as one goal.
I believe Councilmember Steckler was just thinking public safety, so I'm trying to get to your.
Oh, is
4-3.
that correct?
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. Well,
you know, just if I could say,
that makes it even stronger for infrastructure. We just,
Right.
okay.
and to be honest, I'm also kind of struggling with something here.
Is your mic on?
No. No, my microphone's not, now it is. You know, one of the things I'm sorry to kind of be the dissonant here, but I usually do that a lot. If, as a councilman and as a council as a whole, if one of our great goals here that we're gonna put down for our city is that we're gonna be clean and safe and not have cracks in our sidewalk, that seems like kind of a price of admission and a pretty sad, weak goal for us. That's just something we should be doing. That's price of admission. That's just, why is that such a goal?
Right. No, I get you.
But when you talk about being a city where you can be safe physically, feel safe in your,
So you would support having our 5th goal as public safety?
I really do. This one as a,
This one's not going away, and I'll just tell you
Yeah,
why. We're not gonna reverse engineer all the great work you did.
right.
And so that's why when I saw this, and I really appreciate Sean, you straightening me out. We've got 4 for infrastructure, 1 public safety only, and 2 combined. Is that we keep to the public safety intent of this, and you were right, that is the way we framed it last year. And because we have an opening.
But you didn't let me finish.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I'm interrupting you. The point I wanted to make is why I felt this was a help that elevate this was when you put personal safety on it, that elevates it and that brings it to a level of a goal and makes it something a little bit stronger. And I'm a little bit more proud of it as a goal for our city. So that's why I felt that the personal safety was so important as opposed to physically safe. You could make sure you're never going to trip on a sidewalk in Mill Creek.
So would
It'll
you
crack.
be in support of adding the 5th goal that's focused purely on public safety? Because this one's not gonna go away, John. We have voting where, was the 2nd highest vote getter. And I get you don't like it, but that's okay. That's the democratic process. So understanding this isn't gonna go away, even though you're not a fan of it. The question is really, and it's not just to you. Nobody made me king, nobody made you king. This is a democratic process. I'm just wondering if the dais is comfortable with adding public safety as the 5th goal. Melissa?
So I would be, but that's because I voted for it. So I guess my concern is if we immediately make it our top goal, we're kind of bypassing,
Well, it wouldn't be the top.
Not the
it'd be
top.
Number 5.
be number 5.
Yeah.
But then I'm curious then what would be, I know it was like a big jump between what our next goal was from the ones we decided.
Mhm.
I just mathematically, because so far, I mean, I was the only one who voted for it and I'm saying that as in, it's more like maybe there was something else other people thought was a higher priority because we're already doing that. And I don't want to take away from others.
I can tell you that the last place one, which is 4th, is more than double the next vote getter.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the delta is pretty clear.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask the question again. What do you think about, what I'm trying to do is kind of get us off high center. It's all valid points, but
Can I just say one more thing? Andy?
yeah,
So when we did the voting last week, like for bullet number 2, safe, clean, when I put a sticker on that number 2, it was with the thought that they were combined. I don't know if that changes things or not.
Same here.
I think that's what.
Safe and, where is safe and clean? Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
And
put
so,
thoughts
to
on there.
Melissa's point,
I thought that was
of
personal
she didn't
safety.
want it falling off or being
Got it.
added or trying to
I'm gonna
overcome.
take us back to my original question. What do you think about adding not getting rid of this, understanding that not all of you had the same understanding. The majority of you were infrastructure. So what I'm trying to do is look at the minority and say, would it be good to add as 5 a public safety goal? Does anybody have a problem with that?
No. I do not.
Anybody, no problem? Well, why don't we do that? Why don't we finish this one with the understanding that the safe is the way that Martin defined it and the way that we defined it last year. And doing something a little different this year. Not only is that acceptable, it's great. I mean, that's not an issue, but let's do that. So with that understanding, let's go ahead and reread this. Since we've answered those questions. And since Martin's gonna be doing the KPI, do we really need to answer the metric, whether it's operational or residential? I'm thinking that you can make a decision there. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, because that gets to the other question. So I think we answered the clean and safe community. We answered the definition. So with that understanding, let's go ahead and wrap up number 2. Because of my ugly writing and people behind me, I'll read it again. The city of Mill Creek is recognized by its citizens. I'm sorry, by its residents, which actually answers the question here. For being safe, clean, and well-maintained. Is that fully baked, or do we need to talk about it a little more?
Do we all agree that residence is not limited to the residents of Mill Creek when we say that? I think, because if we look at the survey we did, it's 20% of the respondents don't live in the city.
Do you segment that tabulation?
It was 20%, and then I think another 3% were business owners. So I'm not saying, I just want to make sure that we have a same understanding of what we mean by residents.
Where the 20%, I'm sorry? Where did you just say the 20% that don't live here, they run businesses
No,
inside Mill Creek?
of the respondents, 20% of them, if I read the survey correctly, did not reside in Mill Creek. And 75% did, 20% did not, and then of the remaining 5%, some were business owners and.
Got it.
So would taking out the word residents and putting community members?
That's why I just
No,
throw
no,
it out
I
there to
agree.
make sure everyone understands that. I don't know what residence means.
And I didn't know the number was that high, 20% until you said it, so it's.
Yes, Sean.
I think Jody is looking to see about the segmentation. I mean, I think it would be better if it was limited to residents of Mill Creek.
That's exactly why I asked about segmentation.
If that's possible, but if it's not possible, I mean, I don't want to ask for the impossible.
So it's about 13% that live outside of the city of Mill Creek, just to clarify, not 20. And sorry, your question was about,
Is it possible to cut out the folks that are not residents?
I guess what we're
You get that-
asking
you
is,
get that
Yeah.
data?
tabulated with 100% of the sample? Or
It
did
was.
you, okay, great.
yeah,
Okay.
it was. And it would take some doing, but yeah, we could probably go back. Oh, you know what? I apologize.
Oh.
Let me look at this again. I was looking at 2022 numbers, Brian, I'm sorry. You are correct, and it is about 20% this time. Last year it was about 13, so that is correct.
But we aggregated everybody
Yeah.
at the same time. Okay, great, thank
Yeah.
you.
And while Jody has the talking stick there, any way you might change how we measure this, or as a person that specializes in measurement?
Well, I wanted to say one thing, and that is that we did ask the question in this survey. We did ask the question of, one of the questions was, I feel safe in Mill Creek. And that was mostly about, or pointing towards the police and policing. And then we asked this one with specific questions that regarding clean, safe, and well-maintained. And we did design this based on what we thought we were pulling from council's decisions last year. So the questions were, as we understood them, different. So policing and safety
And
under
I
one
think-
category and
Well-
think
Clean, safe, and well-maintained.
We've gotten over that.
Yeah.
hump. I think we're good, but
Yeah,
that's good to
And
know.
last year because we had that as the priority and we had that we would be the
Safe
safest,
city.
we would be the safest city. So we did have them both separate last year. So
And we've
that-
agreed we're gonna do that
That was
tonight.
accurate. I wanted to add, Vince's idea of doing, community members. It's fine, but I also want to throw out to people, if we're worried about this, you could say residents and visitors, or community members or, if we're concerned about this. So I don't know how to balance.
I like the community members, you know, when you look at that survey results from last year, it's like almost 6%. They either own and operate a business in Mill Creek or they work in Mill Creek. But they didn't answer that they live in Mill Creek. So, you know, combined, that's like 26%.
it was select all that apply, so they could live outside
Okay.
the city but work in the city, so that it does get a little mucked up there. I mean, as far as clarifying there is.
Maybe using
whether
the
or not
words,
they have-
maybe using the word stakeholders. I don't know, instead of residents.
Let's start with your first idea and before we add more. So what is on the table is replacing and then after we make that decision, then you can do that. I just want to isolate the conversations. Talking about replacing residents with community members, this is how it would read. The city of Mill Creek is recognized by its community members for being safe, clean, and well-maintained. I need some feedback on what you think about community members. You're shaking your head.
Yeah.
Verbalize.
I think
into your microphone.
residence is a critical word, I think.
Microphone.
It's on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I just keep my mouth shut when I'm sitting here. That way I don't have to keep.
So you're saying that it
I would say
kind
community.
of takes the
Yeah,
strength out of it?
yeah, community residents of his community, something like that is much stronger.
Like to hear from some other folks.
We don't have signs up at our park say if you're not a Mill Creek resident, leave. So I mean, our infrastructure, if this is focused on infrastructure, they're not utilized by just residents. So it seems like we'd want to care about the opinions of all the users. I'm still hung up on not having an objective criteria in there as well. Measuring it two ways. They keep seeing the
Let's
note.
do one conversation at a time.
Fair.
So we will make sure to come back to that. Will you please notate that, Mayor, so I don't forget? I just want to keep us centered. Yes,
I prefer just leaving it as residents with the understanding that, you know, we're not caring about feedback from business, you know, business owners or, you know, from around. We're just trying to have that general understanding. But I think it's just cleaner if it says residents.
okay. Connie, how are you sitting on that?
I'd rather have it say community members.
Isn't it harder to do a survey? It's more limiting to how you get it out if it's just limited to Mill Creek residents? Or do you send it out in the same way and disregard it if they don't indicate that they're a Mill Creek resident?
How do you sit on this?
I'm fine with residents or community members, either one.
Mayor, where do you prefer?
I prefer community members.
Okay. Vince?
I think community members, because as Brian said, when he gave the data, I was really surprised to see how many people that did not live in the city and how many businesses
Right.
responded to the survey.
Sean, pardon me?
Residents.
Residents. Okay, it's really close. It's essentially, 4 of you say residents or could go either, there's one person that could go either or, 3 of you go community. With the interest of kind of getting past this, are we okay just based on this with leaving it at residents? And then, you know, you can wordsmith at a later time if there's still some heartburn over that. Because not only do we have to do these 5, we have to do all 4 steps of the short term, and I'm worried about getting all that done. If I don't get it done, it would require a 3rd session. Brian, Stephanie, and Martin will have me flogged. I guarantee you. So
Some
I'm
of them
really
won't.
focused. not so focused that I'm gonna shut the conversation down, but for the purposes of moving on and the votes that I'm seeing. And it really is tied, because you've got 3 community members, 3 residents, and 1 either or.
I don't have a problem leaving it residents, but I wouldn't want that to influence Jody's survey. So I would still want the options, you know, to pick all that applies.
Yeah, agreed.
Get the same.
Okay, so just for the sake of moving on, why don't we leave it at residents? I appreciate the conversation. So now back to your point.
It's so, it's so subjective. I mean, the resident, we may do very little, but the residents perceive it as being a big change. And it may make the residents happy, but what if it doesn't meet basic objective standards?
Well, the way that I believe the way that Jody framed the question, it was very specific to what safe, clean, and well-maintained is. And you can take 22 as a baseline, you can take 23 as a baseline and measure on, every year on, if you're moving the needle in the right direction. Everybody that takes a survey is responding based on their subjective preferences and perception. That is always gonna be that way.
No, I guess my point was, we had this discussion last year on the public safety goal, debating what was the appropriate, there's various, they're not polls, but I don't know what to call them, ways you measure the effectiveness metrics. Thank you, your department. And some of the materials Rob sent out on the comparable cities had some of the different ways you measure that. I mean, I guess he's a bad example, be very generic. A number of years ago, we had a resident complain about something we hadn't done in this chamber. And the week later, he came back and he said, "Thank you for all you did to solve the problem I had an issue with." We hadn't done anything. So the citizen was very happy. We made the citizen happy by doing nothing, but operationally, we hadn't done anything. So was that a success? Pat ourselves on the back?
Well, I think the opinion of one resident out of
Understand.
20,000
Understand,
probably
but-
doesn't constitute a majority. But we did say at the very beginning that, Martin and his team would develop the KPIs for these goals based on the budgeting process.
That works for me.
So if we're okay with that, then I completely understand what you're saying. And I think we're talking about it happening by a different group at a later time, which would be reported back. Are you okay with
Yeah,
that?
I am. I think that's similar to what we did with the strategic plan last year. We identified that as a goal, and then we realized we weren't all on the same page of what a strategic plan should be, and we set one of the priorities for the year to come to agreement on that.
And you're acting on that. In fact, Rob is right there.
Yep.
There's your guy. So that's the value of setting having council set priorities. In fact, I believe you showed the entire timeline. I mean, this thing's happening. You've got a timeline for it and how the visioning process moves into strategic planning. You've got it all calendared out for this year. In fact, I think does the calendar have it all done by June? Or was I misunderstanding?
Are you referring to 1961 or 20-year vision planning?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be, Rob.
you
Rob's
had
timeline.
the strategic plan though in the timeline.
Oh, I see the projects.
Yes, when you showed the
Correct,
projects.
correct.
It was in the timeline for this year.
That is correct.
Okay, great. So, I'm gonna read this one more time and I'm gonna ask if, this is close enough for us to move on. I tell you what, if you're willing to do this and let us move on, if you want to at a later time, have a discussion on that, I will facilitate that discussion at no cost. I have a responsibility for getting through this agenda. And I don't want the fact that I'm trying to, push us through this to cause any heartburn. So is that cool? Okay, so I'll read it one more time and let's see. This is maybe I don't know, I'll say 6th iteration from last week. The city of Mill Creek is recognized by its residents for being safe, clean, and well-maintained. Let's do some, Stephanie's already started us on thumbs. Okay, clear majority on thumbs. Okay.
It's not smart.
I gotta do some coding on this that I didn't do last week. Hey, you know, is it ever gonna be perfect? It's never gonna be perfect. And any body, a governing body like yours that pursues perfection, and don't take this personally, you'll never get anything done. It's the same way in the corporate environment.
Andrew,
Yes.
would you say it's a SMART goal?
Based on him doing the KPIs, yeah.
Okay.
So it's time bound. The KPIs are going over there. It is specific. Is it perfect? No. The idea there is that perfect is the enemy of perfectly okay. Okay. Well, I found a surface these things actually stick to. My friend over there had to bring 6 different kinds of tape and I couldn't get anything to stick on that whiteboard. Okay. Here, number 3, stimulate economic development. And to John's point, this is merely a concept statement. It's a headline. It's not even close to SMART, but that's what we're gonna effort right now. Stimulate, generate, produce. And do you guys have a working economic development plan? Currently?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of at the trailhead of this
I'm
conversation.
not even sure we're in agreement on defining what we mean by economic development. That might be a good place to start.
Wouldn't that
Okay.
be done through the developing the plan?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't that be done through developing the economic development plan?
But
Do you
what is,
define
when you talk about economic development, what do you define that as? What's the goal of economic development?
increasing business activity and tax revenue in the city?
Could be. Could it also be increasing, maybe define that as, could be defining that as, increased revenue for the city of Mill Creek? In other words, it could be more than just increasing the revenue of businesses. It could be developing revenue streams for the city of Mill Creek. I don't know, that's, some cities use economic development to develop their own revenue streams.
I would.
Could be to
suggest-
bring business to Mill Creek.
Sure,
Could-
and 1961 is going through a very extensive visioning process.
That's where I got a lot of the ideas reading through all the,
Yeah,
what all
but
the
I
cities are
think we'll
doing.
actually inform this, and I agree with the mayor, when we have that, that North Star, then, and we get into the planning process, I think we can be more definitive and maybe even have a short set of bullets that define, economic development. I would hesitate to do that now because all of that work is in process. But,
That's why I kind of wanted the goal in there, what we want economic development to do. So would we write the actual SMART goal? Would be to, what do we want to accomplish with it? What is that?
in other words,
strategic
develop
goal?
a plan to achieve da, 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 da.
Hire a director of economic development with the purpose of generating revenue, something like that. Could be a couple different directions. It depends on.
And
how
I
we
would
define it.
suggest that that would be a great 2024 initiative because it's a lot smaller and it would be in support of initiating an economic development plan. Hey, we got one of our 5 initiatives happening. Anyway, to John's point, does anybody have other comments?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Well, another way to look at it too is from an industry standpoint, with the food and farming center coming in, we have agriculture coming in. There was discussion about the district's land about possibly, there could be a educational facility that focused on the trades and so forth and things. So industry specific discussions could be held to figure out economically if the city was to focus on technology as well, or something. It's kind of industry specific kind of directions to go in terms of whether it's acquiring assets to house these types of professions or, education or so forth. So that's, sometimes cities go that direction too, including that in the definition of.
And I'd say that every city has a different driver for economic development. I'm not gonna say the city, but I recently did one for a city in Snohomish County, and they had one purpose and one purpose only. And 100% of it was about development. And so all of our research and planning were centered around developers. Now that's, very laser-like. I've done other economic work that's nowhere near as laser. They wanted to attract business, they wanted to attract families, all for the purposes of raising the tax base. So I don't know that we have the time to define all that now. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, it does. I just don't know that we have all the data from 1961 to make those definitions. And, essentially, it's going to be a short list of things that you may choose to prioritize. So if you do hire an economic development director, she or he will understand council's priorities and allocate the resources accordingly. We could, in this, talk about defining the elements of our economic development work and develop a plan in support of that. And that, something along that line. Yeah.
I'll give, this is too long. This is too long. You won't like it because it's too long, but
Okay,
it's something to get us started and then we can shrink it down
sounds good.
or chew it up or, throw it out, but generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek through a planned and well-executed economic development plan. See, it's really bad. Focused on business development and newly created revenue streams.
Actually, I think that's really strong. Take out the final phrase and read it again.
You don't like that? Okay, so
Well, we haven't defined it yet. So if you could read everything.
you don't want to I thought you wanted that focus on measurable, business development focused on newly, business development and newly created revenue streams. I thought do you want that focused on something specific?
Well, we don't know that business development is our number 1 target. Typically, it's certainly part of the mix.
Oh, okay.
I just want you to read everything up until the last comma.
Okay, generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek through a planned and well-executed economic development plan. How about if we just take out that plan? That sounds
Yeah,
crappy and just say generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek through a well-executed economic development plan. Generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek through a well-executed economic development plan.
I'd like to get it up there as a working start. One more time, John.
Generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek through a well-executed economic development plan.
So by the way, your first statement, I don't think is too long. There's not actually typically, they're gonna run between 10 and 15 words, but I've seen them longer. Yes,
I like it. My only question is, I'm not sure what the goal is by 2026. Is it to generate the revenues? Is it to execute the plan, or is it to develop the plan?
That's a good point.
But I like the concept of it. I just think we need to focus on what is the actual achievable goal in by 2026. We agree that the goal of the plan is to generate revenues, but is our goal to complete development of the plan?
You know what? We ran into this exact same conversation on goal number 1. And so I want to read that because that may give us a path. This was city vision becomes a reality. Your final goal is the city finalizes funding plan for construction of the DRCC master plan. So essentially, you're finalizing the plan that will lead to additional revenue. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna take. I know that that your city staff has a lot on their plate, but that would get around what you're saying. And you're right.
Can I suggest a modification to John's?
Yeah,
Complete development of economic development, complete development and begin execution of economic development plan.
complete development, keep going.
It's just adding to the beginning of what he had, complete development and begin implementation of an economic development plan to generate additional revenues for the city of Mill Creek. So that income, I think 3 years is longer than we would need to come up with a plan, but it's identifies the goal is to complete the plan and begin
Develop plan to
execution.
generate, develop plan to generate.
And begin executing
Yeah.
on the plan within
But-
3 years.
But if you say just that develop plan to generate additional revenue, like,
Yes.
yeah, develop plan, that could be the 24 part is take a
Right.
year to. just
And
put
the
that
longer
together.
term goal is to develop and begin implementation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could we
A
add,
develop plan. Thank you. Develop plan and execute. Develop and execute plan to generate additional revenue.
Well, I get hung up on the word execute because to me, execute suggests completion.
Yeah,
Implies
so
completion.
this is not well written, but it's, complete development
And begin to execute.
of an economic development plan to begin generating additional revenue for Mill Creek. So what we're saying is that the plan would be done by 2026. And I think that you had a little bit more elegant way of putting it.
Oh, the goal would be to complete the plan and begin executing it within the 3-year horizon. That was what I was trying to get at, rather than just developing the plan.
Complete the plan, and what was the rest of that? And begin,
Yes, begin to implement.
let me read that. Complete the plan and begin implementation of economic development to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek. This needs to be really cleaned up. I'm just trying to, I think we're close.
could we put anything on there about allocating resources to that execution? Or would that be just part of the plan?
I typically the plans have a budget, an action plan. I tried to get your thinking here and I think I've made a mess of it. Can we do a third version? Because, so you said complete the plan and begin implementing.
Oh, that's why it doesn't work, because you're saying complete the plan and begin to implement. That's like, I completed the plan and now I'm gonna begin to implement it, but I've already completed it. You want to develop the plan and begin to implement. Begin the plan and,
We need a.
create the plan and implement it. You want to create the plan and implement it to generate, and implement a plan.
Create an economic development plan and begin to implement it to
How about create and implement a plan?
generate additional revenue for Mill
How about
Creek.
create and implement a plan to generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek?
Create and implement an economic development plan. Okay, that's a heck of a lot better than what I've got.
You crack me up. Yeah,
We're getting close.
additional revenue stream.
I would just leave as additional revenue. That encompasses streams, it encompasses
Yeah,
new
sure.
business, everything.
This is what we've got. Between the two of you, I think we've really got a good thing here. I'm already getting some thumbs up over
Can I
there.
suggest one really small tweak?
Can I read it first?
Yeah.
And then create and implement an economic development plan to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek.
My suggestion that I was trying to get to with my earlier change was create and begin implementation of economic development plan to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek.
So you want to write, you want and begin right in between here.
Maybe complete and begin execution of economic development plan. I just want to avoid creating the implication that we're going to complete it, complete execution, that we're going to begin implementing it.
So it'd read like this: create and begin to implement an economic development plan to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek.
Yes.
That's what
I
you're
was-
suggesting?
That's what I was suggesting.
I've got a thumbs up over there. I got a bunch of thumbs up. I've got like the majority.
Staff have any input on this? Thoughts? Laurel?
Yeah, complete development, begin implementation. The economic development,
Microphone? John Steckler
no.
didn't do it.
The only, I just had noted that you mentioned complete the development and begin implementation of the economic development plan to get additional revenue for Mill Creek.
That's pretty much what
The
it says
problem
now.
is you have planned
Same
twice
track.
in the same sentence.
I think we've encompassed that with what's
Yeah.
up there on the.
I'm gonna read it again. I got all these thumbs up, but I'm gonna read it again. Create and begin to implement an economic development plan to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek. So, I get what you're saying about complete. I completely get it. Do you prefer create or complete?
Create.
I like
Create.
Okay, alrighty. I think we can drop the mic. We've got it done. Nice work. What great collaboration. Yes.
This is gonna throw a wrench in the monkey works.
Oh,
but I
I'm so
think-
glad you're bringing this up, Mike.
Yeah, but I think we did this last year too, where we had different definitions for words. We just went through that with safe. I think Councilmember Steckler started off by saying, what do we think economic development means? I'm afraid that's a phrase that might mean several different things. And from a practical standpoint, I'll tell you, we're gonna be talking about economic development as a phrase we're gonna use next week, because a comp plan element is economic development, and it's gonna be talked about next week and next month.
And is it defined within the context of the comp plan or is it open-ended?
Very
And I don't know that definition, but it's interesting. Our comp plan has not had one before. It's a requirement, but that's an identified thing. And I think economic development with respect to our comprehensive plan, our land use means one thing. Economic development, I think, might mean something else. Let's sell T-shirts at the front counter, or let's charge twice as much for passports, or let's raise taxes.
Those are
Maybe
all
that's part of
tactics
those things
though.
we're gonna deal.
This
with
is
in
a
the
high
plan.
level goal. Everything you said were tactics.
Yeah.
And I believe what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the definition of economic development and our priorities would actually be defined in the plan.
And so I
Yes.
think that's the important part. So I not lose that with sending it off. The danger is if you send it for council, go do this. And we have misinterpreted what you meant by the definition of economic development. I'm leery about that.
I think it's a really good point. And I think something we put up here, which would, like, pointed out to the staff to come back and say something, is the words additional revenue. Additional revenue. So we're putting that definition up here. What we want to be able to accomplish with economic development is how do we get additional revenue streams, enhanced revenue? So when we come back to define it, we look at it, we're saying, we're going to have more expenses and more expenses and more expenses. We're going to need more revenue streams. So when we're looking for economic development, it's going to be charging more for what we're already getting, but we're also looking for new and different ways to generate revenue for the city. So additional revenue is going to be the way we define it. So when it comes back down to, were we successful? Did we generate additional revenue, or did we generate
City of Mill Creek.
for the city of Mill Creek?
Not the businesses.
Not for the businesses, but if we generated more business in the city of Mill Creek and they gave us a base, I mean, Terrible example, but it's the one that's stuck in my head when with the the information 1961 sends out was one of the cities had one income, one revenue line alone, which was a property tax from microphone. It was huge. It was a huge number for one item. And I looked at that and I said, wow, that just tells me that there's other revenue streams that we could look at, maybe not that one, but other ones that the tax base could be just astronomical for us. So that's the kind of definition of additional revenue streams or additional out of the box thinking.
Mike, are you asking, I mean, I think what you're getting at is when we update our comprehensive plan, one of the things we have to update is the economic development element in our comprehensive plan, which under the GMA establishes local goals, policies, objectives, and provisions for economic growth and vitality and a high quality of life. So I think Mike is asking,
Wouldn't
what-
those elements drive the definition of how we define economic development?
well, but I think Mike's point is how is what we're talking about with this goal different than what we have to do this year in our
That is
comprehensive plan?
I think it's different.
So that's what I think Mike's just making sure we
Yeah.
agree that we're talking something
Yeah.
more than what we're doing for the comprehensive plan.
Right.
That may
So we
be,
got two different economic development elements here. Thank you. Well, I just want to make sure that I understand we have two different economic development elements. We've got one in the comp plan and one in our 26 plan from council. Is that correct?
One of them is,
One way to
thank
look
you
at
for quoting it from the materials. Thanks for looking that up. So we are mandated to get that one done by the end of 2024 and sign, seal, and deliver that as part of our comp plan. I think Brian's pointing that out. I'm saying if this is a fuzzy assignment from council, I'd love to have that clarity on how these things align or what this means. Because I think the reason we're struggling with this is because there's not seven people that agree on what economic development means.
And we don't need seven. We just need a majority. I do want to go to you and I think I have a remedy. I hope I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead. Well, the remedy would simply be, since the comp plan is overarching and it trumps everything else, why not just say, based on the comp plan, create and begin to implement an economic development plan to generate additional revenue for Mill Creek? The definition of economic development, the definition of those additional revenue streams would be in the plan. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
So if we put based on the comp plan, does that lower your blood pressure?
It's not, no.
No, it kicks it down, it kicks the can down the road.
Oh,
And maybe we don't have time to deal with it tonight, but that doesn't help.
yes.
Okay, so my comment was, it was two things. I really appreciated getting the definition of it, and I had a feeling we would start getting stuck on what exactly the plan is. But, so I have two comments for that, because I looked up in the MRSC website and they gave both examples of how in comp plan, there's an economic development element, but it's generally focused on maybe the downtown area or the focus of that specific thing. So that would be different. The comp plan would potentially focus on the particular areas that we're trying to grow versus the economic development plan that we're talking about here is an overarching one about revenue streams and potentially policy changes and all that kind of elements to it. So my recommendation though, for this and what we're writing about is it is us giving direction to staff that we would like a plan and we'd like to hear back from staff the actual definitions. So we don't move forward with it until you guys tell us what you're doing. And then that gives us the opportunity, not here, but when the, definition, just like any project that you start, you list out your objectives of that particular plan and that development. So we can fine tune this when you have come back to us with your professional experience and examples of what it is. And then we can talk about, when we're talking about economic development, I'm focusing on more, how do we get businesses to come here or these kind of businesses? And someone else can talk about, we're talking about revenues for the city. So what does it mean? What are the additional things that we can be, all those different elements, but then we'll have that conversation specifically then and not here when we're just trying to do big picture 2026 goals.
And based on your explanation, what you talked about in terms of getting inputs and staff and definitions and all that could be a great priority initiative for 2024.
And I just wanted to add, well, I agree with everything Councilmember Jakay just said. And my overarching point was that we're working on the goals right now. We don't need to be all in the weeds on this tonight and solve every single thing about this. And to me, the whole idea of creating an economic development plan is to get in there and have those discussions and figure out where each one of us thinks economic development is, what does it mean, and come to a consensus and put it in a plan. And so that's not something that has to be done tonight. That's something that would be part of creating the plan.
And I think we also want to be informed by Rob's visioning work.
Go ahead.
I could buy that with maybe one addition to that. Just to state that we still need to define what type of additional revenue. Is it additional revenue to the city? Is it GDP? Like, how are we going to define that? So as long as that's memorialized, because we tend to forget what we've talked about. So as long as we memorialize that economic development, or excuse me,
Oh,
additional
how about
revenue
this?
is unclear.
To your point, how about this? Generate and begin to implement an economic development plan to define and generate additional revenue for the city.
Sold.
Yeah, it's for this, yeah, the original one on top was City of Mill Creek.
Yeah,
And we got down to Mill Creek. That's where it becomes generalized. You know, it's interesting to watch this whole thing, how it's progressed. When we first started this, I said, do we have a definition of economic development? And, you know, there was crickets and nobody was saying anything, and nobody really jumped out and said, do they have a definition? And I threw one out there to try and make it very defined. And it seemed to be okay with everyone. And that's why I did throw it back to the staff to see if the staff had comments. And then Mike did bring it up. How does this relate to our comp plan? And the definition of economic development that the mayor read is a very fuzzy definition of it. And it encompasses all the different elements of economic development.
and we don't want to write it.
And you cannot include that in a SMART goal,
Right,
because it includes everything, includes, you know, whether or not you're gonna help the downtown core or crime or whatever it might be. So we do, if we don't want to take the word economic development out of this or not make it part of their goals, we definitely need to come up with additional revenue streams for our city. And if we need them in 26, we need to start working on them now.
so are you suggesting that we would create and begin to implement a plan to
To generate
define,
additional revenue
to
streams,
to
yeah.
define and generate additional revenue streams for Mill Creek?
I'm wondering if using the word
City.
economic development's got to raise panties in a bind here, because
Yes.
I think it has. Oh, and I'm getting thumbs up from everybody now. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
what is it you're wanting up here?
Can,
they don't want the word economic
Oh,
development.
okay, but your deal. So, yes, Mayor.
two comments. I don't want to get hung up on additional revenue sources. I'd leave it generic because our plan may focus on increasing existing revenue streams. It may include new streams.
That's fine. Existing
But-
and new.
But
Existing new is
the-
great.
The other comment was.
Well, it just
I-
says additional revenue. It's very general.
I know that does, but John made the comment suggesting that we say additional revenue streams, but I think we're close with this language, but I think the point we've been dancing around is the decisions we make on the comp plan are gonna have a big effect on what we do with this economic development plan, so.
And I think that's what Stephanie was saying. Getting into the weeds right now isn't gonna make this perfect. But that process and the visioning process will help us refine this. So,
But we are trying to develop our goals for the council to give to the staff.
absolutely.
And where I don't want this to get fuzzy down the road and eventually it goes away and it becomes nothing, is that we do need to have a goal for additional or new, existing, whatever, revenue streams for our city. That's something we need to come up with.
And additional revenue encompasses all of that.
Everything.
So let me read what we have so far, and then we can kind of figure out if we're there or not. Create and begin to implement a plan to define and generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek.
I think,
What do you think?
I like that.
Say it.
Oh, I'm not happy taking that economic development, but I struggled to get that on there last year. So,
Okay.
and here it is. So, but if everybody's in, technically it does mean economic development, but
I don't know if this makes a difference, but
Alright.
both Mike and Martin almost broke their thumbs going like this so fast.
Even Rob almost broke his thumb. He's not even on the staff.
Rob liked it too?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I don't know if this idea we're thinking about, but you know, so test this. Is our goal to balance our budget by minimizing expenses? Or is your goal to increase revenue to balance the budget? I think you're saying now, which is different than it was a few years ago, we want to be Mill Creek by increasing revenue to balance the budget at a place that makes us Mill Creek. I think in the past, as a past council member and a community member for a lot of years, it's been how efficient can we get? How much can we squeeze the budget? How can we get by on less? And I think you're talking here about a goal that says, let's look at the other way to balance the
Right.
budget, because we don't have a balanced budget structurally. That's the issue.
And Director
Is that what you're
Todd,
talking about?
what you just said is my interpretation,
Yeah.
economic development.
And economic development is one approach. Winning the lottery is another approach. You know,
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
If we don't do this, then we just have to cut expenses.
But it's all.
That's the other truth. Yeah, that's the other truth. And
so I'm gonna have to, we need to move on. I have to call for thumbs for this definition.
But you took economic, that doesn't reflect what you read, because you took out economic.
Oh, I didn't include it, but you're right, I should redline it. And it should be A, not and. And I added a bunch of other stuff. Create and begin to implement a plan to define and generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the economic development. It just caused some issues for staff. And it's good to talk about it.
Well, if economic development is a sticking point for a few of you, we should talk that out.
Yeah.
I know it is for one person.
I just think it can be a tactic for achieving that goal.
Yes,
Oh,
like
we
that.
call that out in our initiatives for
that's a
twenty
great
twenty-four.
solution right there. That could be a tactic.
Yeah. I said something like that a while ago, but
Yeah.
nowhere near as well as Connie just did.
Because she doesn't talk much. It sounds better.
Any other comments before we move on? We definitely had a super majority with the thumbs up a few minutes ago. And I know it's not perfect for everybody, but I think that we can move on. We're gonna thanks for the reminder, Brian, to cross out economic development, so I didn't mess that up. Or,
Annexation plan.
thank you.
This will be interesting. It's a casino. Yeah, there's your economic development plan right there.
Okay. You know the process. City sets annexation plan. I think you can add a little on the front end, a little on the back end, and you're pretty much there. It's very specific. So willing to hear any comments about that.
My only comment, and so I didn't vote on this one. So when it says, the way I'm looking at this, because it says city sets annexation plan, that I'm assuming with that, this means we are going to do the work, the
Agreed.
research, have the information brought to us from staff and do in creating a plan, that means we're going to get all the information to decide what or if we annex.
Right,
So
great idea,
in
and
order
that's what
to
we can
recommend
put in the
annexation.
front end.
So, so that's how I'm looking at this,
You-
that involves the fact finding process. Cause I feel like right now we haven't done the fact finding process yet.
Yep.
to know what or if, but by creating a plan, that work would be done.
So that's great, and I see some of your council members agreeing with you. Could you give us some front end language based on what you just said, Stephanie? Before it says, develop, the city, develop the city of Mill Creek's annexation plan?
I'm not sure how to put all that into some front loaded.
I'm gonna ask your colleagues to help you, because
Yes,
there was some
absolutely.
real good stuff in there.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Oh,
Didn't have my hand up.
oh, okay. So what are the elements? that we-
Something like city vets all annexation options, or I think that's where Stephanie's going, because that's where my head's at too. Like, we don't have a plan, we haven't agreed to annex. We would just like to hear options, right?
Yeah, we need to know what's involved in it and what the pros and cons are.
I've got a possible.
I'm not saying that this is it, but I'm incorporating what Stephanie said and how Vince helped us frame it. The city of Mill Creek vets all options to develop an annexation plan.
Or potential annexation.
A potential? Oh, in other words, we're not assuming we're not going to.
Correct.
Got it. John?
Okay, I got one. Create detailed analysis to uncover most opportunistic annexation plan to meet the needs of the city of Mill Creek. Wordy.
Seems a bit weird.
It's wordy. We can cut it down, I'm sure.
Yeah, but there's some good
A
stuff. in
couple
there.
words in there, yeah. So the part was to create a detailed analysis. So we got to do this analysis. We got to, and that to uncover the most opportunistic annexation plan. Create detailed analysis to uncover the most opportunistic annexation plan.
Okay, conduct a detailed
Detailed
analysis.
analysis to uncover most opportunistic annexation plan.
Or annexation options to develop the plan?
Well, it's uncovering the most annexation plan. That was on annexation, what do you, yeah, option or which way should we go? Most opportunistic annexation, I said plan, because it, you know, if we're gonna do it, what would be the best way for us to go?
Yeah,
Which one's gonna give us the best mix? Residential business taxes, residential opportunities, either land opportunities or quality of residence. Mike Todd has taught me how much public works is just gonna take to bring it up to snuff.
I did a little bit of wordsmithing
great.
based on everything that I heard. Conduct a detailed analysis to uncover the most opportunistic direction for an annexation plan. I really like what
There
Stephanie
you
was
go.
saying. We need to, we need to look at the different options.
Question for Mike and then a comment. Mike, will our comp plan update, does our comp plan include annexation policies?
You probably know more than I do, but I think it's in there. I don't think there's not a separate element about annexation, but it will wrap in there somewhere. I'm not sure what element would go in. I'm not an expert.
Then what I would suggest, I'm not sure our goal is to set a plan. In my mind, our goal is to make a decision whether we're gonna annex. So to me, the goal would be adopt annexation policies and make a decision whether to annex any unincorporated areas outside the city.
Let's get it up on paper so we know what it looks like. The great thing about this is that all these different iterations are good. Would you please say that again, Brian?
Develop annexation policies and make decision whether to annex any unincorporated areas.
Annex any unincorporated areas?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to make it simple, the city makes the decision whether to annex.
Okay, this is what we've got. Develop annexation policies and make a decision on whether to annex any unincorporated areas.
Do we actually need policies or is it, we just, want them costed out?
Well, it's not, it could be all of the above. I think I think we've got to have a discussion of what we're aiming for. The policies would be of what we're looking at. Is it a land use play? Is it a revenue driver? Is it because we have a bigger vision? I mean, I think we've got to identify what our policies are to make a decision.
The policies or the priorities?
Yeah, it's not.
Priorities is fine. I'm fine with that friendly amendment.
Starts with P.
So I already heard Stephanie say that she liked it. What about this end of the room? What are you thinking? Okay. So, the idea is, instead of policies, put priorities. You could say policies and priorities.
Policy/priorities.
Pardon me? Priorities. Yeah,
Potato,
I get it.
potato.
Chicken and egg, I get it. Okay, it reads like this: develop annexation priorities and policies and to make a decision on whether to annex any unincorporated areas.
Thank you. So of the three, I think the third is the one I'm leaning towards.
Okay. What about you, Connie?
Change the second and to two. Priorities and policies to make a decision whether to annex.
Oh, change this and to two?
I wouldn't, those are separate items though. It's develop the policies so we can,
Well, what she's saying is that you would do all of this to make a decision.
but I want to make the decision.
Okay,
I want the city to make the decision by the end of 26.
I got you. So, make a decision.
Correct.
Got it. Stephanie,
I'm fine with it.
number 3?
Yep.
I know you are. What do you think, Vince?
I could go either way. The reason I would gravitate toward one because I think the only thing we're going to do in this time frame is decide, not decide if we want to annex or not, but get all the mitigating factors from the staff, the costing out. I mean, it's quite a lengthy process. So if they all come back bad, we're not going to annex. If they all come back costly, we're not going to annex. So I think to review options to decide whether to annex is probably a more ambitious goal than number 3.
John?
I'm okay with either one of them.
Okay. Sean?
Number 3.
Number 3? So do you get why he wants and instead of two?
Yes, I do, but I also question whether or not we can and make a decision in that timeframe.
Doesn't mean it gets implemented, it just means we set the
Make the
policy.
decision on whether.
Let's pursue it.
Right, so developing the priorities and the policies that allow us to decide.
That's what I was gonna just suggest, to enable us to make a decision.
Yeah, that was my, trying to change that.
Okay, great. Good work. Develop annexation priorities and policies to enable us to make a decision whether to annex any and unincorporated areas.
I have one question, just out of curiosity, on top 26, would this be a goal for the end of 2026 or is this a goal for the end of 2025?
This, everything here, so you don't have, so 2026
Mhm.
is the sunset.
Mhm.
You can't go later than that. You could easily have a goal that's, has a due date of earlier than that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
answers my question.
Yeah, so earlier is okay, later is not. So it looks like, we have, I had like 6 thumbs. Actually, I didn't get a thumb from Melissa. Oh, okay, great. I think we're here. Nice work. Okay, we talked about doing, public safety. I need, a goal. I need somebody to give me the short phrase that would have been the headline up there.
Could we just do last year's and say Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city?
Ask your colleagues.
Mic drop.
Put it up there.
Well, I got a lot of thumbs. I think on that, we ought to take a short break. Would you please say that again?
It's Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city.
For the record, the chief is turning red. We might want to ask him some questions.
I know that's what we ran into last year, but this is what we did last year, so I'm throwing
Yeah,
it out
I
here.
think I think we ought to finish it. Go ahead.
That was exactly it, is when I was looking at these again, sorry, and by these, I mean, last year's
Right.
goals. And then looking at what we've been doing, I realized, oh, these weren't complete. We didn't actually finish with the metrics or that information. So for me, this was, when it didn't get voted, I went, okay, well then we're not moving forward with it. But this is one of those. And I guess if we were to have underneath it, the ideas, I would go back to our safe, clean and well-maintained one, where it says that, that residents would, perceive it or something along those lines. Or community members, or however we want.
Or you could define the geography.
Yeah.
You could say, okay, safest city in Snohomish County, safest city in Western Washington, Sound, Western Washington.
Right.
State.
So that could
think
be
I-
one angle if we went that way, if we wanted geographical. The other
That
one
would
could
make it
be,
smarter.
Yeah.
If we actually defined where we're making it.
Yeah.
Chief, do you mind we ask you what? I mean, county, region, state?
I think it's reasonable for this being 2026.
Yeah.
I think the county would be a reasonable goal, for that period of time.
Is there a certain award that's given out or that you know about or that be recognized in or, okay.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, so this is the way it reads now. Mill Creek will be recognized, and we could do, is that what Melissa said? By our citizens as because we actually have that in the survey. I'm gonna read it without though first. Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city in Snohomish County. I mean, that's very, very specific. I don't know what the KPI is there unless you talk about the residents.
Let me try this one, Andrew.
Okay.
Mill Creek will strive to eclipse industry standards by providing its citizenry with exceptionally safe and clean streets.
You're adding clean. We already have a thing on clean.
Exceptionally safe.
Exceptionally safe. Let's write it out so we see. Would you do that again, please, Vince?
But then we have to define exceptionally safe.
No, better than the standard, better than the norm.
No,
Is there-
write it
there
down, Andrew.
Standards that you,
We could compare ourselves against surrounding jurisdictions and their crime stats.
That's what I was wondering.
okay, So there's the KPI. Would you please read that again, Vince?
Mill Creek strives to eclipse industry standards.
Thank you for reading it a little bit at a time.
I did that too. You didn't thank me.
By providing
That's
its
because I
citizens.
didn't want you to feel too much, because we're close.
Yeah,
I know you
uh-huh,
better than anyone
Yeah,
in the room.
Okay.
Industry standards.
By providing its citizens.
Citizens or residents? We've been using residents all day. long.
Residents, fine.
Okay,
Let's take a vote.
go ahead.
With exceptionally safe streets.
I do appreciate you going slow. Okay, so we've got two. I'm gonna, first of all, I want to make sure I have this one right. And then when we do, I'll read them both and then you can kind of decide, because they're both really good. Mill Creek, and I really appreciate the chief helping us with, a geography. Mill Creek strives to eclipse industry standards by providing its residents with exceptionally safe streets. The other version is Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city in Snohomish County.
Hey Vince, could I make a suggestion on yours? Sure. What if we just took out two words, strives to, and just make it Mill Creek eclipses industry standards by providing its residents with exceptionally safe streets?
I like it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, it makes it stronger,
really
doesn't it?
strong.
It's also more smart. Let me read it.
While you've got the pen up though, what if we were to say, keep going with the strikeout and just say Mill Creek provides its residents with exceptionally safe streets?
Oh,
Will we get rid, are you saying get rid of the industry standards?
What we're comparing.
but it kind of, it's a nice comparison. I like that too. Eclipses industry standards. It's way above anyone else. We're better than any other.
I'll read it without the strives, then I'm gonna go back to you, Sean. Mill Creek eclipses industry standards by providing its residents with exceptionally safe streets. I'm trying to get back to you. You were wanting to get rid of eclipses and get rid of industry standards?
May I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Possibly, instead of eclipses, maybe sets industry standard. Because we would be the leader in setting the industry standard for the rest of our neighboring agencies. As well as, but I don't know that streets is necessarily, because it's not just the streets that we want to make safe. So maybe that is
Parks,
community, because,
Yes.
but I think it's about businesses, it's about residents, it's about all those things, right? Because the business leaders and the business owners in this community are providing real information as to how they feel about the police department as well.
So two good suggestions. One is sets, which means we're the leader. And the other one is get rid of streets and we just say an exceptionally safe community.
Correct.
What do you think about those two recommendations?
That's fine too.
What do you think?
I mean, hearing all that, I actually would go back to number one, because it's the more clear version, I think, of what the wordsmithing below.
I would make a tweak. I agree, and I'd make a tweak to number one. So it simply says Mill Creek is recognized based on industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County.
That's it.
What I want to do is get to two good working things and then we'll kind of make a decision. Did you have something?
The mayor has an edit for the first one.
Number one, after recognized based on industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County.
Let me read them both and you guys see how it feels here. Mill Creek will be recognized based on industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County. Is that the way you were thinking?
Yes.
You could also put industry standards based on, you could also say based on industry standards, comma,
Yeah.
Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city in Snohomish County. Just another option.
Either way.
Then the other one is Mill Creek establishes industry standards by providing its residents with an exceptionally safe community.
Kind of like a little bit of both of them. If I had to choose a third alternative, and I still like Eclipse's industry standards, just because if I don't know that much about it, I'm just reading this as a resident, I think it's kind of cool. Mill Creek eclipses industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County. I really like the safest city in Snohomish County. That's kind of a cool phrase.
Let's hear from other folks. No pressure, but you're gonna have a break after we decide this, because after that break, we'll be able to move to the short term. Yeah,
Are you, is the question, do we have a third or are we between the two? Which one do we like more? What are you asking us to?
do you want me to write the
Would you
third
write
one
it
up?
down? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mill Creek eclipses industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County.
Okay.
Vince might have a suggestion. So I like that safest city and I like that eclipses thing part.
Okay, I'll read all three. Mill Creek will be recognized based on industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County. Mill Creek establishes industry standards by providing its residents with an exceptionally safe community. Mill Creek eclipses, I'm sorry for the bad spelling, Mill Creek eclipses industry standards as the safest city in Snohomish County.
That would have to say, sorry, the bottom one would have to say, and becomes the safest city in Snohomish County, but I don't think it reads right.
The reason why I'm gonna argue for mine is you could have 3 cities that eclipse industry standards. Which one's the safest?
Well, Chief says he has data on crime statistics that will actually rank all the cities in Snohomish
I
County.
understand, but.
Oh, okay,
there's
so-
those eclipses, so if 3 cities eclipse the industry standards, are we the safest?
Yeah,
Right, I think that's why the
That's-
chief said sets.
And that's the reason for it's hard to give a definition to industry standard, right? Is that somewhere along what the lines that you're saying? Because we,
And number 2, that's why you
Yep.
put establishes. We put
But
establishes.
establishes to me says we're determining what the standard is. That's, I don't think that's what you guys are intending, but that's how it reads. That we're determining what the standard is.
Or sets.
Well, but the same
we're still
thing.
determining.
Could I,
Rob,
Rob,
In these crime indexes that was in the research, there's basically 3 things that back it up: serious crimes, property crimes, and police officers. So the indexes are using different weightings of those 3. So my question is, are those the standards that you're talking about? Because that's what I'm seeing that's out there that you could use as a baseline. My second part of the question that I think you need to consider is there's a huge difference between small cities and medium-sized cities when you look at these indexes, and it's going to be a very tough time getting better than the small cities based on the data that is out there, just because they're very, very small. So I think you need to think about size as well when you're talking about being the safest, if you're going to use the baselines.
And we often don't know what we mean up here.
but if you're providing staff with strategic direction, that's time well spent.
So like he said, we can use, that was the old intent, the persons crimes, property crimes, things of that nature. And he mentions police officers, so it's comparable cities that we have already identified through other avenues such as negotiations with labor groups and things of that nature.
Well, and we could actually include comparable cities to deal with the size issue.
When you look at the three of these, Chief White, any feedback on
Yeah.
those three?
I would agree with Rob. I think that the comparable cities rather than the county, because if we're trying to compete with someone like Everett or the sheriff, who has a lot more resources than we might have, it might be difficult. We're still looking at percentages though, so we can still hopefully be within that realm, but.
So thinking that we're gonna add comparable cities, which one of these three do you like adding that to best?
I'm still leaning towards two.
Mill Creek establishes industry standards. Two comparable cities? How would you phrase that?
Based on comparable cities?
What's that?
Based on comparable cities? Mill Creek established.
Yeah, comma,
Yep.
based on,
I'm
based on
still hung
comparable
up on
cities.
that word establish. To me, has the wrong connotation from what I hear you guys saying is the intent.
And I agree with the mayor there too, so I do, that does.
that's what you
kind of
prefer
lean-
sets?
I mean, aren't you
Well, I
guys
think- I think
suggesting we
so. I
want,
think
we
I-
want to be
I
the
think I get what
industry
the mayor
leader of
is
sorts, is what
So-
I think you're getting at.
Well,
We've
And I-
got
and I-
three conversations going. Let's just do one. The chief was in the middle of something.
After hearing what the mayor just said, I think number one is probably the best one to go with, and it says, based on comparable cities, Mill Creek will be recognized as the safest city
In the state or just in comparable cities?
in the, based on comparable cities.
In the safest city in the
Within the
state?
county.
So it would read,
Yeah, region, county.
PG,
well, you already defined the county.
Yeah, we already said
I don't want to reverse engineer things they already agreed to. Let me read it the way I think you're saying it. Based on comparable, or would it, we don't want to do based on comparable cities and then based on industry standards. What would the? So what I'm thinking is based on comparable cities.
Those
Mill
crime
Creek-
indexes, those crime indexes that Rob is referring to as well.
Right, and we don't need to list all those in
Right.
the goal, but based on comparable cities, Mill Creek will be recognized based on industry standards, see, that's really clunky, as the safest city in Snohomish County.
why not say based on industry standards, Mill Creek will be recognized among comparable cities as the safest city in Snohomish County?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me read that again.
Based on industry standards,
Oh, we're putting based on industry standards
at the
first.
front, Mill Creek
Based on industry standards, Mill Creek
will be recognized among comparable cities.
Okay, I think I got it now. Based on industry standards, Mill Creek will be recognized among comparable cities as the safest city in Snohomish County.
I like it.
Yeah. Thank you, chief, for the help. I'm getting thumbs up all over I got 7 thumbs up. Shut the front door. Nice work, and thank you, chief.
Be the safest city south of Everett, north of Bonneville, and east of Linwood.
Okay, are you guys okay to do a 10-minute break instead of a 15?
Yes.
Just so we can get everything done?
Yes.
Take a look at your watch, please, and be back in 9 minutes. We don't want to be like a convention where the 15-minute break goes to 25, right? I'll see you back in 9 minutes. Nice work, everybody.
States broken up into regions as well.
I don't know, with 7 thumbs up, I think we ought to just call it a night.
Yeah.
We're not gonna approve on that.
Make the rest of the stuff up.
Cool.
The only one is Bonnie Lake is the only one. If you could cheat this pocket. They have a lot more resources, but they have a lot of cash. It's about percentages. Because if we're gonna compare it to Linwood, Right? The population is,
You guys been following the stock market?
no, it's much more than 40,000.
Incredible. Amazing.
Well, it's still evolving, but maybe part of my, so I didn't even in my group. Yeah, they're not even in my group because they're not within the county. So within the county, we're pretty confident in our ability to be that. Be the top. As far as just. Yeah, so they can- Because like I said, I've tried to.
Correct me if-
These resources more than they're.
It's making you happy, I could tell.
Although we have.
Better so easy to believe.
You know what, we really are.
I can't get that, I can't get.
We really are.
Right.
Like a city.
Especially as we get older.
How else do you explain?
We get easier. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, so I was.
My ego's gone way down.
Yep.
Now I understand. Now I'm getting it, 2024. Oh, no kidding, dude. I'm older than you, I know. God. That's such a sad story. Thank God I still got my memory, so I can remember what I was like in my prime. I still got the wife, you know, 35, 37 years ago. She remembers what I was like.
That's beautiful.
You know, it makes so much, it is such, I was looking at, I was telling somebody the other day, we're talking about, how long we've been married, and I was telling somebody else 37 years ago. And, I said, you know, the funny thing is though, the last couple of years, I've been looking at my wife lately, and she seems to be getting prettier and prettier. I just find her more attractive. You've had the same.
He's really nice.
Yeah, look at her, lately. Gray hair, little wrinkles and everything. She just looks so pretty to me. It's just amazing.
Years ago, the little things after.
Yeah.
The new handbag, you know, all the above, and I do.
And if I can ever get my wife to spend money, I tell her I appreciate it. I love it. I want her to. I want her to spend money on herself. We've gone through all the stage of having the kids and saving money and not, you know, trying to be smart. Now I'm like looking at all the money and saying, we gotta spend this shit.
That's where we are.
Yeah, let's enjoy it.
Going to
So when I was asking
you
for a
two
deputy
one more
director,
time.
he retired from Seattle. Just,
Where you going?
yeah, and all of a sudden I said, well, I have these.
Councilmember Steckler and Cavalier, just so you know, the mics are hot.
Yes.
But we've known each other since we were kids.
Did you read about Nassau, Bahamas? Oh, they had a bunch of tourists got murdered down there just recently. You know, it's one,
Yeah.
one crazy dude. I think get a great deal for one Bahamas right now. You can get a great deal.
So if you ever bring second.
I just told me, I just told Mina and him to get up there
Like
like
a first class. And I want to have the same thing.
Things are good otherwise.
Oh, your own chef.
Oh my gosh.
I got it. That's what I had to send just in time.
Yeah.
4 6
That's terrible. It's awful.
Adrian's like, I'm out.
Glad you told me.
So anyway, so they have this, it's called like within Norwegian, it's called. It is insane, so.
Yeah. All those little.
Shaylin, may I have the PowerPoint up, please?
John stickers, no, that could be entertaining.
She got it. Martin, she got it. Thank you.
Yeah, give him all 30, give him all the 30.
Thank you, Shaylin.
That would be hilarious.
Take his ones and twos.
Oh.
Next time.
Caitlin, I just had green screens. Could you with your mouse click in the middle of the, there we go. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. We're all here, so let's get to it. So we had provisioned 2 hours for this. We have an hour and 40 minutes. So we'll be as lean as possible here. So it's the exact same 4-step process we went through for our longer range goals. We're gonna brainstorm headlines for short range initiatives. These are things that you would complete by the end of this year. Then we'll do the consolidation process. I'm not gonna explain it. You've done it, we know it. That's where the break was gonna happen. We've already done it. Then we prioritize, everybody has their sticky dots, and then we frame. So we should get through the first 3 in less than a half hour. And that gives me confidence that we can frame it, especially, it just really felt like we got our land legs and we were just becoming more, you were becoming more and more efficient. Okay, so, oh, by the way, I put these up here. Number 1, the city finalized funding plan for construction of the DRCC master plan. The city of Mill Creek is recognized by its residents for being safe, clean, and well-maintained. Number 3, create and begin to implement a plan to define and generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek. Number 4, develop annexation priorities and policies to enable us to make a decision whether to annex any unincorporated areas. Number 5, based on industry standards, Mill Creek will be recognized among comparable cities as the safest city in Snohomish County. Okay, we talked about alignment. Does that mean that everything we end up with has a direct alignment? No, but we want to effort that. Okay, brainstorming. Who's going to start out? Remember the headlines, 7 or 4 to 7 words.
City finalizes DRCC master plan. I know, I'm on it, man. Want some more?
Thank you. Who's next?
City,
Okay, it was great seeing you all.
city finalizes the strategic plan. City completes the comp plan.
Well, I'm starting to feel kind of a rhythm here.
You got another one? I got one more. Okay.
Yep. And city adopts its balanced biennium budget, or however you want to word that.
City balances the biennium budget.
Balances 6 straight
Well,
biennial
adopts.
budget.
Yeah,
What's that?
Adopts its 6 straight balanced biennial budget.
I know, I'm forgetting. Somebody else take that.
I'm glad that Stephanie is prepared, but I'd love some diversity here. Melissa,
So last year's was complete strategic plan for ARPA funding, but ARPA funding, the actual like hasn't been finished. So it should still say that then. So complete strategic plan for ARPA funding. ARPA funding,
oh, okay.
ARPA. No? That's it, allocated. Complete ARPA allocation. Thank you. I thought there was, because we did our plan, but we haven't allocated all the funding. Thank you.
City at full staff?
Pardon me?
City at full staff?
City identifies options for new public works facility.
Finalization of annexation criteria.
Draft economic development plan.
I'm old, so I'm just gonna stay down here. Who's next?
City identifies funding requests for 2025 legislative session.
Can you give me a shorter version? your stuff is
Identify,
so long.
identify funding requests for 25 legislative session.
Thank you. For 2025 budget?
No, legislative session.
Oh, I got it. This is state.
Correct.
But I have a question for the staff, if I could.
Absolutely.
Where are we on like policies and procedures and getting things like that wrapped up? Is that something we should have on this? Is that worth calling out here?
How would you word it in just a short headline?
City completes personal manual and police policy revisions or revised.
Can you give me a shorter version? The city
Completes policy revisions. ARPA related policy revisions.
I'm sorry, what related?
ARPA
ARPA.
related.
That's pretty important. I'm adding that.
That's code word for.
Yeah, that's for the police and personnel police policy and personnel manual.
Got it. So the ARPA covers that?
Yes.
You call it out those two. Right.
Yeah, it'll be those two, but those are paid for through ARPA.
Got it. Well, and if it bubbles up to the top, we can, state all that in the initiative. Okay, I got room for another 3. And it looks like that's gonna be enough. I had Melissa's hand up.
I was just gonna read the other ones. We don't have to put them up. I just wanted to see if there was like a temperature check to see if they were still. These were the priorities that were listed last time. So we had enhanced community communications plan. So if there's anything to do with our they did do things. They absolutely worked on that. And because it included sponsoring inclusive community events, establishing measurements for city services, engaging community on broader inputs for larger projects. But in case anyone's interested on anything as a council priority for communication. The other one, policing plan to increase presence. And then don't get sideways on the ecology, get in compliance. That was another one that we had talked
That
about
sounds
last year.
like Mike Todd language.
Yep, that was exactly it. So in case, I'm bringing that up in case you guys, if any of that bubbles up, anything that resonates that you think should be a priority for us this year. I'm not recommending them. I
Got
just
it.
wanted
You're
to
just kinda
say
getting
it.
them out there. Somebody had their hand up. Is that you, John?
I saw you had at the top your city finalizes the RCC master plan.
I don't have it. You guys have it.
Somebody does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do that then city.
I think the first 12 are from Stephanie. I'm teasing. Only the first 11. Go ahead.
City completes citizen response to DRCC options.
Okay, say it again, please.
City completes citizen response survey, citizen survey to DRCC options.
Yeah, as always, we'll wordsmith the ones that bubble up to the top 5.
This might be kind of a haymaker, but I know we're in the process of doing it. City updates its disaster plan.
He's looking at it right now.
He'll be
Right?
finished, he'll be finished by 9.
it as.
328 days ago.
There's a resident at Cozier that contacts me monthly to see where we're at.
And by the way, if we have more, we'll start another page. Yes.
There were a couple things that when we were working on 2026 that you thought we should, like, oh, you have already that in mind for 2024.
Yeah, that
Um,
happened, I think, 2 or 3
Yeah,
times.
did anyone write those down?
I tell you what, I'll read the 26 again. That might stimulate the idea. I'll try to read them a little bit less frantically here. Number 1, the city finalizes funding plan for construction of the DRCC master plan. Number 2, the city of Mill Creek is recognized by its residents for being safe, clean, and well-maintained. Number 3, create and begin to implement a plan to define and generate additional revenue for the city of Mill Creek. Number 4, develop annexation priorities and policies to enable us to make a decision whether to annex any unincorporated areas. Finding number 5, based on industry standards, Mill Creek will be recognized among comparable cities as the safest city in Snohomish County.
Andrew?
Yes.
Would you mind maybe reading out the ones that we didn't select? Because those might be.
I would try to talk you out of it. Oh, you mean the ones that didn't get selected?
Maybe one of those would be one.
Oh, okay. Now I'm catching up with you. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Usually I say, don't focus on low voted stuff, but you're talking about stimulating for the 24 list. I'm a little slow. I'm not gonna do the goals. Accomplish all ARPA projects. Mill Creek sub-area plan becomes reality. Additional city revenue, you got that one covered. Community events attract record numbers. Property tax frozen. Those are all sub-issues. City and school enters into partnership. City recognized for safety through technology and innovation. City fills all vacant commercial space. Thank you. I'm a little slow. Stephanie?
Could I ask the chief, I know last year we were working on, enhancing the police presence. You were working on a plan and I feel like you haven't completed that plan. You've been working on that plan and the presence is up. So I wasn't sure it needs to go on here now, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, last year we were asked to create a police presence plan. We did that. It's been provided to the city manager. He's reviewed it. We have implemented it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
As far as staffing levels will allow us, we are putting it into effect.
Perfect. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And that's what your staff, that's how seriously the staff takes council priorities. That is very cool. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. Would these be, before we write anything down for the staff, would these be 24 council priorities, or am I pushing them too much? The sub area, the library project, and the memorial project, to get those completed in 24. Sub area is a plan, not a completed. I'm just getting a plan done.
Well, as you know, the 250K from the county is gonna be used for the drainage study. We may require more, but that's gonna be completed sometime this year. I don't know
Plan will be completed.
the plan.
Okay.
The extent of a memorial project, given that we need to have the board bring ideas back to council, we might go as far as design.
Okay. If it's approved.
If we get the funding from the state, which
Yeah.
was not,
in the next 30 days.
Is there one out of those three that's particularly important to you, John?
You know, I guess I'd kind of like to either shoot it or launch it, and that's a sub-area plan. What are we doing with that? That thing seems to flounder.
That's part of the comp plan update, and that's what we're talking about next week.
That's part of the comp plan,
Yes.
okay? Okay, I think the other ones are just a little bit too flimsy to put into
Okay, well,
priorities.
good judgment.
We haven't talked about finance for Ermina over there. How about city receives clean financial audit? Feel included now? All right.
Or what's gonna happen to, no,
Clipsing.
If somebody has a burning idea they want up here, I will start another page. No, but don't, I didn't want to kibosh you.
You gotta get a clipsing.
Share what's on your mind, Melissa.
Well, I actually need help wordsmithing it, so maybe it doesn't
So
even get
if
on there.
Everybody can listen to Melissa. She's asking for your help. Go ahead.
I'm looking for help for wordsmithing. It seems that we talked a great deal about the clean, safe, well-maintained. And so if that's a goal for 2026, what would be a priority that we're setting for staff to be able to
For
potentially
2024.
for 2024 to meet that 2026 goal? Is it, what is that kind of language without being too, without getting into the weeds about what they do with their aspects? But is there something that we would find, and maybe this is a question for staff? And I say this because I think about parks, and I was thinking about what you were saying about the memorial and the library park and just in general, but I don't know, how do we tell you that it's a priority for us?
I think we should get in the weeds on this one.
So yeah, with parks, like so is it, a review of our parks or landscaping, bike roads, but bike paths, there's bike roads. I don't know what I was trying to say there. Clearly I don't cycle. But I feel like that there should be something in there about that. So I guess I'm looking for all of you for help in terms of wordsmithing that.
Staff have any suggestions?
Maybe it's similar to the other one you had where you're gonna be, complete the ARPA we had when complete ARPA allocations, maybe just complete the ARPA projects. We got a lot of stuff to get done that has a lot of it was the medians and the,
So complete the allocated ARPA project?
that would be plenty.
Cause I don't,
You've
Okay,
already
the
got
ones that
complete
are
ARPA
planned.
allocation. Is that different?
That's
yes,
different.
that's different.
That's
Okay.
different.
But we don't need more new ideas. We need.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say.
We
I
need
don't
to-
want to
We
give
need to
you,
execute on the ones we've already approved.
Right.
yeah, that.
Really good check.
When do you get the new street sweeper?
That's a,
May. So maybe something around implementing the strategy.
So
that's
allocation.
implementing the approved ARP.
Funds. What they're talking about now is he's got a whole bunch of projects that have already been.
He doesn't want any more up there.
No, but what he wants is, the request is that could he get his projects completed by the ones that already been given to him?
Oh, did
Can he
he
get them done by
did
the
he
end of
answer that?
2024? He's saying yes, other people are going, I don't know.
No, he's saying,
exist.
Yeah.
one, that's right, the ones that are already
A stretch
approved
goal.
before we started allocating.
So do you want that up there or no?
So maybe for some clarity, let me pick one. So we're working on upgrading from incandescent to LED lights. We have to spend that money by the end of 2026. We have to be under contract by the end of 2024. It's a big project to figure out what we're gonna do. We're changing, what are we doing? So that, getting that project done is part of those ARPA allocations. So I think the suggestion from the mayor was to
Execute on the approved ARPA
Yeah.
projects.
Execute an approved ARPA project. That's good. And that's a stretch goal.
feel like we have to get that money spent to lose it. That's the focus, is those that we've already got to.
Yeah.
Yes. In some cases, that's gonna be completely done great. In some cases, that's gonna be a contract that says over the next year and a half, we're gonna change every street light, every street pole in the city. or whatever.
Andrew, you want to change the word existing to approved ARPA projects?
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Yes, sir.
Street sweeper naming contest.
The Paddock Mobile.
Can't
Pa-
use
the
any count,
Paddy Wagon.
you cannot use any council names. No, none of the existing council can be names.
We're getting really tactical right now. Anything else before we do our consolidation?
I'll just say one more. I'll say complete Silvercrest Park upgrade.
Yes.
Say that again, Silvercrest?
Complete the Silvercrest Park upgrade.
What request is that? Your fifth? Sixth?
Anything else? Okay. Melissa, can you see this over here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna use this as my staging for 2024. The 2026 has already used its utility, but I am gonna still put it right here. I need to have those two on top of each other. Okay, you'll remember step 2 is consolidation. So right now I'd like you to look at this list and determine where the obvious duplicates are. Remember, the goal is not to narrow the list down to 5. Your dots will do that. So we're just consolidating the obvious ones. There we go. Okay. I will read them. City finalizes DRCC master plan. City finalizes the strategic plan. City completes the comp plan. Adopts the 6th straight biennial budget. Complete ARPA allocation. City is fully staffed. City identifies options for a new public works facility. Finalization of annexation criteria. Draft economic development plan. Identify funding requests for 2025 legislative session, which is not a budget year, by the way. No, it is a budget year. This is the short session right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just figured that timing would need to be, right? My apologies. Draft that, we did that. The city completes ARPA policy revision. The city completes citizen response to DRCC option. City updates its disaster plan. City receives a clean financial audit. Execute on approved ARPA projects. If I'm on Tweety Bird. Street sweeper naming contest. Complete Silvercrest upgrade. So where are the obvious duplicates?
On the first page, the third bullet from the bottom, I think can go under the first bullet on the first page.
This one right here?
Our contract for the master plan already encompasses a public participation process, so if we complete the DRCC master, we'll have completed the public
Okay,
participation process.
can I go ahead and group those, everybody?
Mhm.
Oh, wrong one.
Wrong one?
below that.
Yeah, wrong one, one below.
Sorry.
That one.
Yep.
And Andrew, is there one hiding under the paper?
No, what's hiding is the
Oh,
title.
Okay, good.
I'm just trying to make it high enough so Melissa can read it. Okay, thanks for starting us off. Brian, what else?
There
How
are
about
s-
third bullet from the bottom? Execute on approved from the bottom. Your other bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always get my bottoms mixed up. Cost me my first wife. It's a sad story. Execute on approved ARPA projects.
Correct. And looks like the fifth one down, complete ARPA allocation.
Which one is the dominant or the header?
Those are different. I would
Yeah.
not say that those should be combined. Complete ARPA allocation means we have 1.5 million or something like that. I think we haven't allocated, and that's identifying projects for that.
But if we execute on the projects, aren't they already allocated funds for?
No, it's different. The ones,
Alright.
yeah, they're different.
Yeah, and I think one is a Laurel goal and one is a Mike Todd goal.
I think you were starting to talk.
Yeah, there are a number of goals up here that are kind of like, what we normally do. And they're not really goals, they're just part of our job, like, approving the budget and a few other ones. Should we be going through this list and just saying, is this really a goal or is it just part of?
I
our
would
job?
let the voting docs speak for where they made. Your point is really valid. But crossing out other people's stuff unless it's connected, I'm
Okay.
agreeing with you 100%.
That's your point.
But as long as everybody hears your point, then the ones that are gonna happen anyway, we shouldn't waste our dots. So good point. Stephanie?
Andrew, I want to make a very strong point here. I intentionally put those up there because this is our priorities. And there's a lot of staff time and a lot involved in all those top things that they need to get done this year that absolutely have to get done. So that is why I put them up there. And to be honest, I'm struggling with this entire process because I don't know how they get anything else done besides those this year. So they are absolutely priorities. They're going to take a huge amount of work. Just getting the DRCC master plan is a huge amount of work that has to be done. And staff is going to have to spend a lot of time on this. So they are absolutely important priorities.
Well, I'm not getting rid of them. I said we'll let the dots, the voting prioritize the list.
I know what you said. I just want to make my point because I've been quiet about it and I haven't said why this is why I feel so strongly that they need to be up there.
Got it.
And I want that to be clear with everybody where
Okay.
I'm coming from. Thank you.
John, just for clarification, you're really referring to the budget and the comp plan, which are, I think, are the two up there that we're legally obligated to do before the end of the year. Those, did you have others on that list that you were thinking of?
No.
Any other duplicates? I want to get to prioritization so we can keep an hour to frame the 5. I didn't see a lot of duplicates other than the one that's up there with the DRCC. I don't want to push it though, because once we vote, that's it. You can't cross out stuff or add stuff after you voted. So I don't want to push.
And we get 3 dots.
Yes. Which is the most important dot, John?
1.
Yes.
Did you know that?
What?
Didn't you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah.
I
How
just
many
want
points is it worth?
3.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to make sure
I
you
wanna
knew
say-
that. Okay, do you feel like, any other thoughts? Pardon me? I do wish you luck. So we're using the exact same voting criteria. You cannot put more than 1 dot on a line. You're gonna put your dots directly underneath the bullet you're choosing. 1 is your first choice, 3 points, 2 is your second, 3 is your third. Don't put them on the side or above, gotta be underneath. You gotta spend your 3 on 3 separate deals. Any questions? Yes,
Can we move it over to that wall? Because I can't reach
yes, absolutely.
any of them actually.
I'm glad you asked. You're gonna have a lot of people behind you. I'm sorry for that.
It's funny.
Statement by how many people are gonna put it number 1.
One more dot. I feel like I'm a Wheel of Fortune. Could I buy a vowel? Could I buy another dot?
Okay. Go to it. Please, do it, expedite it as quickly as possible and go to your seats.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're at your seats, that tells me I can tabulate.
Ladies first.
What? How about 3.5? I'm actually not gonna do that. That's a little bit pedantic. I'm trying not to be that guy. You don't know how hard it is. I'm trying not to be that guy. Honey, you're a rock star. Just up there, boom, boom, boom. She knew exactly what she was doing. I saw something in your hand. I wasn't sure.
Oh, the paper. Do you want it back?
No.
Souvenir. Don't move the dots, John.
So, everybody's out, you're voting.
We're voting. What you meant was.
What you meant was your dot should be down here. I was helping you out. Yes. Martin gave us a.
When I was considering doing the retreat to Kelly Hotel. You know, Kelly was doing the retreat.
Here we have it. Number one at 8 votes. State finalizes ERCC net plan. There are 3 tied for second place, all at 7 votes. And they are city completes the comp plan, complete the ARPA allocation, and finalization of the annexation criteria. Those are all at 7. The next one at 4, which is number 5, city finalizes the deed plan. Everything below that is 3 or 0.
You're on mute, Andrew.
Andrew, how many points in the bottom one?
The bottom, oh, excuse me, I didn't even do that one. Thank you. It looks like 4, 6. So that means that would supplant that. I'm really glad that you noticed that. I made an error.
I'm curious if the two ARPA pieces were combined, if we would have had more dots on the one bullet.
Well, somebody asked to do that, but then there was logic behind not doing it, and I can't really speak to that because that wasn't, I'm not a deciding factor here. But this one actually has 50% more votes than the other one. Thank you very much, John. Execute on approved ARPA projects. Okay, let's start with number 1. City finalizes DRCC master plan.
Record show, I didn't vote for that either, so I'm just curious.
Well, there was a big enough delta to, yeah, that's actually a huge mistake. I'd fire your facilitator, but let's wait until 9:30. We got an hour, let's rock and roll. Okay, this is the dominant theme. City finalizes DRCC master plan. This is a 2024 deal.
Yep.
It's actually complete, is it not?
No.
What's it missing?
Yeah, the goal.
Yes, it's.
No, what I'm saying is
It is
that
worded,
this is a complete priority.
it is worded appropriately.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
We might get out early.
You could agree on it once.
No. Maybe I did.
The
That's
plan,
not what I meant.
the plan to have a plan is done.
City completes comp plan. All of these are just
Drop.
really straightforward, slam dunk. Oh, we're gonna get out of here way early.
Yeah, don't, last time you said that, we sat you for like 45 minutes on.
Is this, drop the mic? Are we done? We
I
move
think
to the
so.
next one?
Hey, I'm good.
You're good? The mayor is looking.
No,
for-
I'm fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
My word, excellent.
Second tide is complete ARPA allocation. And I'm just gonna, they're 5, but I'm still gonna be doing ties because of the voting. What did I say?
Complete.
Complete.
Allocation.
City completes ARPA.
Allocation.
Thank you. Is that done too? Your headlines were just so, well, it's shorter, it's easier, it's right now, but your bullets were so complete. I mean, they're smart.
I'd add an S to complete.
Pardon me?
I'd add an S to complete.
You add what?
Add an S to complete, city completes.
Got it,
It's to be grammatically correct.
got it.
You don't want to sound weird. Repeat ARPA budget.
My last tide for 2. City finalizes annexation criteria. Anything on that one? I just see a lot of these. Okay. You're not gonna get mad at me if we get out a half hour early, are you?
Just gonna dock you a few bucks.
Just a doctor? Well, maybe you don't need to fire me. Yeah, that might be a stretch. Okay. Number 5. City executes on approved ARPA projects. I think there's another one that's fully baked. On approved ARPA projects. What do we think?
5 is all we're gonna do, right? These are
Yes.
5, yeah. So I find it interesting, this observation, out of the 5, only one, I think.
Your mic is off.
Again.
Hey, look, out of the 5, we've selected, only one relates to the 26 goals that we set up at the beginning of this meeting. I find that interesting. Well, I guess 2, because you got annexation up there too. But I just find
Well,
that
the
an
comp
interesting
plan
observation.
has got to be, I mean, that's going to be informative on, what am I forgetting? The, economic development plan. We pulled economic development out of it, but it's all about additional revenue. And so that's going to be informative.
As will the DRCC master plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do call that out, yeah. I call the DRCC out. And I even-
Anyway, I
yeah,
get your
okay,
point.
that's the observation.
Do
I
we
think
need to
it's-
do any wordsmithing to city executes on approved ARPA projects? Yes.
Well, my hand wasn't up for that.
Oh.
My hand was up for, in terms of, Councilmember Steckler's, comment, the like safe, clean, well-maintained, some of those are all aligned into the ARPA allocation, potentially to the projects that have already been approved, right? Because that's a lot of our projects will relate to that, but then also that's important for us when we think about where we want the ARPA allocation, the remaining money to go, to think through our 2026 goals and what does that mean for accomplishing that. So I agree with you, but I also, and I agree and say that I find there's an opportunity within the ARPA elements to hit those marks.
So before any more comments, I need to know if, we are done on this 5th one.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Is that a realistic goal for the city to execute on all approved ARPA projects? Because all things that were approved, we have a lot of stuff that's approved, but it was approved with the idea that it had to be spent by the end of 2026.
Well, they have plans, like some of them, the contract needs to be signed or the plan to get, you know, there's plans in place with steps that need to be
Correct. There's
executed.
Execution and approval. So this is execution. That means they're gonna spend the money, they're gonna do it. So approval is one thing of ARPA. But execution, I don't think they're gonna be able to get all of the ARPA
about-
projects.
We're gonna have to have contracts in place for all ARPA projects.
By the end of-
Anything that would go past December 31st of
Should we
2024.
change execute to contracts then?
I think execute is fine.
What
I mean,
about
that's
con-
up to you guys.
What about continues to execute?
Well, execute means you're gonna do them, but you're not gonna do them all.
That is
all-
correct.
All the projects that are approved, you're not gonna execute them all. You're going to, contracts could be
Yeah.
done.
They have to be committed, though.
Well, no,
Yeah,
the committed goes to the allocation. The execution is the ones where we've already approved a plan, so they're either gonna bring us a contract for us to execute the contract, or we've already executed the contract and they're gonna be performing it. That's
What's-
different from the allocation. There's $1.5 million or so that we haven't allocated, that we haven't decided how we're gonna use.
yeah. So out of all the ARPA projects that we have approved, are you able to execute all of those by the end of this year? Execute, meaning not not get contracts written, execute them. And
We have to have contracts
I
in
guess
place and then
semantics.
they have to be like all of the money has to be out of our account at the end of 2026.
26, not 24. So these are 24 goals.
Yes, so the money has to be committed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has.
I'm not saying this right. By the end of 2024, you can have contracts written on all approved projects. Can you also finish those projects and have them executed by the end of 2024? No. So the problem is that line of execute, I think we've got a definition in our mind of what that means, because we had two goals up there. One was city will approve all, or I think there was two different lines up there. One was execute and one was
Allocate.
allocate.
So you're suggesting we would change executes to contract?
Allocate. Yeah, or allocate.
But she keeps using
City
the
commits
contracts. word.
funding,
Yeah.
city commits funding on all approved.
Andrew, you had two lines up there. One was execute and one was allocate.
City completes ARPA allocation.
Yeah, see that one was complete ARP allocation, one was execute. So when I saw my dots said, I didn't put any dots on that because no way they're gonna execute by the end of this year.
So what is your recommended wordsmith?
How about city moves forward on approved ARPA projects?
I think there's some, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't, the whole project, the number fifth goal is a little tainted here because I think some people put their dots on that thinking that meant, I don't know, that they would get contracts done by the end of the year.
What about
That's-
begins
yeah.
execution?
Yeah, but I think we could wordsmith it to make it work, Laurel, but.
Well, you've had two options or two suggestions. Go ahead, Sean, do you have an idea?
Just a second, I'm sorry, buddy. The problem is we made choices based on these words that were on the board,
That's just it. We made choices. and
based on
those-
these words.
Those were the choices.
Right,
So
We know
that
what that
made the
meant.
list.
okay.
That was
And-
words,
but
words,
people
words.
Discuss.
But people made choices based on those words.
Would
And now
anyone
we're,
change their vote?
now we're
Based
changing
on
the
what-
word, now
based on
we're
what's
changing the
being heard?
words.
Would anyone change their vote?
No,
Done. Done.
So let's go ahead
You
and
did
change,
vote.
let's go ahead and
That's fine on
change
that
the
one.
language. We have a couple
No-
suggestions.
No
You're-
one, no one that voted.
No, I got it. I've already moved on.
Okay.
Yeah, what was your recommendation? What we're saying is that we're not gonna say executes because that implies they'll
That's
be
what
done.
people voted on. Why would we change that vote?
We're
Change
not
what we
changing,
said?
we're wordsmithing it.
Yeah, we're not changing the vote. We're just changing the word. It's just like with the 2026, we changed all the words on those. We've changed hardly anything here because they were so specific. And so John asked, Laurel if we can execute on all of these, and she said no. And so the suggestion was contracted for, committed to.
commits
But
I
funds,
said-
city
words, Andrew.
commits funds on approved ARPA projects.
Say that again.
City commits funds on approved ARPA projects.
That's allocation. That's
No,
that's
it's
the other different.
Yeah, see, you.
Laurel,
created
Laurel had a,
up there.
Laurel had a
Okay.
good suggestion.
Number
Hang
two
on.
T, the second one,
Then
city
contracts.
completes ARPA allocation is, we get contracts by the end of the year.
No, it is not.
It's,
That's what Laurel is saying. She'll get
number
contracts.
5 should be the contracted one.
All right, that's number two T, the second two T, is city completes ARPA allocation.
That's just saying the money that we haven't already allocated needs to be allocated by the end of the year.
That's
That
the-
says all of the ARPA funds that we've been,
Laurel,
that are
can-
allocated to us, that are
let's-
allocated, the
let's-
whole
let's-
4.5 million.
Laurel,
Can I-
We'll allocate that.
hold
by-
on, hold on,
Hold on,
hold
hang on.
on.
Let me just finish my comment,
Let-
Brian.
Let's let her
Just-
tell us what it means instead of debating what we think it means.
Well, she just told us what it
No,
means.
what the deputy
So
city
when you
manager.
allocate funding, you're saying this project, we are open to spending up to this amount of money. So when you commit, that's when we're gonna create the contracts and we have a committal for those
see.
funds.
Yes, remember when they first brought us a package for $2 million, they had these ideas of how to use this $2 million. When we blessed that and passed a motion, we allocated that money. That's different from executing. When they came back and brought us the contracts to implement them, that's when we executed on those approved projects.
And what our deputy
Typically-
city manager, during that explanation, she said contract 4 times. You guys said commit. She said contract.
So your allocations are tied to the different ordinances. So we have 4 different ordinances so far for ARPA. And then the resolutions are tied to that committal. So those contracts come to you when there are resolutions, and that'll be those contracts.
So with that, we're not talking about getting rid of this. As Sean said, it won the votes. We're talking about wordsmithing the word executes. Commits to, contracts, those are the two that are bouncing around. Are there oth- what did you say?
Well, both of those terms mean execute to me.
No,
So I don't have any
City
problem
move.
with the way it's written now.
Okay, all right.
This
about-
is how we've been talking about it for 2 years. Allocate, I mean, the street sweeper, we first made the decision to allocate $500,000 to buy the street sweeper. We then executed under number 5 when they brought us the contract to sign to go purchase
In the form of a resolution.
in the form of a resolution. So there's $1.5 million that we've not even had a discussion of what we want to use that money for, to tell staff, go forth and use it for this purpose. When we do that, that is allocating those remaining dollars.
I want to go back to you, John, and let you finish your point.
My point is, we're taking 2 of our 5 goals and using one to say it's a top goal of this council that the city will come back to us with an allocation of the remaining ARPA funds.
Don't
then-
look at me, tell them.
Well, I'm
not
looking
a
at the city
decision
manager
maker.
too, and it's kind of hard for me to look sideways. That's why I wish we were sitting around a table.
Sorry.
Because then I'm not looking at him if I
No,
look
I
this
get
way.
it.
So, yeah, so we're gonna take one of our 5 goals to say, we want the city to come back to us with a allocation of the remaining 1.5 million roughly that we have left. And then we're gonna take another one of our goals to say, a goal, a big fat goal is we want you to come back to us with a contract.
It's actually just a 2024 priority.
Okay, that's our priorities to our city. Out of 5 priorities, 2 of them are that they're gonna give us an allocation and a contract for our remaining ARPA funds. I would
make a
think,
point?
okay,
That's
yeah,
not what it
but
was
yeah,
me.
I'll be back to you in a minute, okay? Let me finish. It would seem to me that I look at our priorities to our city, these are minuscule, it can at least be just one priority as opposed to taking 2 of our top priorities and making them, separate.
We had an open brainstorming discussion. You had an opportunity to add whatever you wanted to. And you also made the point that these 2 should be combined, and your council disagreed.
And yes, there's a real debate on the semantics that are up here. Okay.
Vince and then Melissa.
So first, it's the top 5 2024 council priorities. And the majority on the council believes that not only utilizing the rest of the ARPA dollars that exist and allocating towards something that we want to accomplish, but we also feel strongly enough to put it as a second bullet that the projects that we have already approved, that they get executed on. So that's why they're 2 different bullets, because they're very time sensitive, just as the exercise is.
I would agree with what he just said, but that's not what we agreed on.
Okay, Melissa.
So when I look at priorities and I voted on these things, I was focusing on what do I think in terms of resources do we have to complete these or to work on these? And I consider that staff time. And these are 2 separate things that, in terms of your comment about like our goals and this is like so minuscule to it, it's not, because this takes a lot of manpower to be able to accomplish. And so that's why, these are 2 big things. I do want to say that I did view number 5 as to do more with Director Todd and Public Works. And so the contracts fall under that side, correct? So then that makes sense to me, because it's not just contracts, it's also like, one of an initial recommendation I had is that maybe we added language to say like 60 or like 40% of ARPA projects are executed upon, or something along those lines to show movement, was going to be a suggestion, but I wouldn't want to just throw out a random percentage without understanding where you are in the process. But that could be something to help us in terms of that actual like fixing the road or planting the things or whatever it needed to be done with that funding.
There was 2 possibilities. As city moves forward on approved ARPA projects, and Laurel had, what was yours?
Laurel's over here.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking to.
Are you talking about committing?
Number 5, yeah.
Yes, so there would be allocating and then there's committing. And I think execute would be roughly the same thing.
So just keep it there as it is. All right.
You know.
Yes, Stephanie.
And I'm with Councilmember Duque. When I was looking at this one and we were discussing it before, I'm looking at this one of executing, of actually getting the projects done that we need to get, or starting to get, doing the work to start to get them done, to start to get the medians clean, to start to do some of these things that we have set up ARPA funding for, that we want to spend it on.
So you are good with the way it is?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come to you. I'll let you have another word, but you've dominated the conversation and I haven't heard from two council members. Yes,
Sean can go first.
Sean, I will come back to you.
I thought I expressed very clearly.
Mike,
You like what it is? Okay.
I like it.
I had forgotten. Thank you, Sean. Mayor?
I like both, the way both of those are worded. I voted for neither of them. I don't think annexation should be up there. Because I don't think we have the bandwidth, but I'm reminded of what Councilmember Bond told me many years ago. Hold squad, be quiet, you lost the vote, move on.
Got
So
it,
that's why I'm not gonna quibble with why annexation is up there.
got it. You had your hand up, sir.
So, what I've heard two council members say, and what I said a little while ago was, number 5 says executes on approved ARPA projects. So if the staff is okay with this, what a couple of council members have just stated here that they heard was, of the projects that are approved, we will execute on those. Now, when you ask the council, is that what they understood? None of them said they did. But now I've heard two of them say they did. That was their understanding. So I was okay with that if the staff was okay with that. Now, they had some urge with saying, can you get everything that's been approved so far completed by the end of this year?
Different. That's the goal.
That's
We
that,
all understand execute.
Yeah.
We all understand execute. Let me use an example. So for instance, if we had allocated money for street sweeper this year, and we brought it to you to say, put it under contract this year, we would have executed by the ARPA deadline to put it under contract. The fact that it took 1.5 years to deliver it is still fine because we'd spend it by the end of 2026. So I would say we've executed that because we have committed you have committed through a contract irreversibly. And if you don't do it, you lose the money. We're looking at how do you make sure that money is committed and you are not gonna be able to pull it back.
Right. So
So
if I,
to me, execute in some cases is we'll get the whole thing done. Some cases it's gonna be, we're gonna work really hard to get a contract by December 31st, and you guys are gonna be here till midnight that night, signing contracts to buy a bunch of trees that we're gonna store somewhere, because we have to buy those trees and we're not gonna get them installed until the next spring. That's what that means to me.
okay, so
And I
just
think I see a lot of.
clarification for me, we have under contract out of the 5 million, I'm gonna roughly about 3.5 million under contract right now.
no, we
Because we have
have
$1.5 million
3.5
left, right?
allocated,
How much is left?
1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5. And how much were we given? 5.8. So, okay, maybe 4.5 million under contract, right?
No.
Right, you got
Allocated,
1.5 left. How much is under contract out of 5.8 million? If you have
I would have
1.5
to look
left.
that up. We have the sweeper, we have the security cameras, it was 150-ish.
Out of
We-
5.8, we've approved.
You've approved,
We've given you our blessing and we have said, go forward with everything except 1.5 million, right?
No.
you
No.
have, but you also made the caveat that we had to come back and give you, anything that has a contract tied to it has to be brought back. And then we have to do a resolution, and that is the execution that everyone's talking about.
So the approved projects is not what we've approved.
They're
The
approved,
approved
but you want more
projects.
specifics on them. You want to see the final contract before, and that's what has made some things take a little bit more time.
This feels like a little
Wow.
sidebar conversation for Councilmember Steckler to understand what happens with ARPA funds. It doesn't have any bearing on how we.
Oh,
voted.
it does.
It doesn't have
does.
any bearing on how we voted. No one wants to change their vote. I think it's time to move on.
It's time-
If we'd like to have a council vote on whether to move on, I think we should do that.
Sean, one of the challenges we have here is when we just move on, we have a goal or a priority that there is confusion on. And then we find out later, 6 months from now, that there was a confusion on what that goal was.
I don't
And
believe
that's
we
happened
I
to
don't
us.
think there's any confusion. The
City,
staff understands what I think what we meant by that, or what we mean by that. There are projects that have been approved that have not yet been executed. Some have been executed, a contract has been approved by us. Others we've approved in concept and they haven't brought us the contract to execute it.
So the goal is the city will execute on not necessarily approved projects, but on approved and contracted projects. Is that right? I'm just
So
trying
if
to get
projects
clarity.
are under contract, that means that things will start moving.
Mhm.
So by the end of 2024, we will have at least every single project in motion. But it does not mean that every project will be complete until 2026. Does that make sense?
Well, we have had one council member call for a vote. This is the thumbs up. I'm gonna turn to the mayor.
Is there anyone that is confused about what's up there on the board
No.
other
I
than,
am.
okay? Then I think we.
Well,
need-
Sean, you know, maybe had a that's what we're gonna do, had a remedy that maybe he meets with the appropriate staff to get educated on what it does mean. I don't know.
I
Are
think-
you okay, Mayor, for us to call for a thumbs vote?
I am, because I think at least 6 of us understand it. I think we're simpatico with staff and understanding what that means.
Staff also said that she was fine with executes as opposed to contracts or commits, right? Okay, let's call the vote. Thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you disagree. Yeah,
The whole thing.
okay, we've got 6-7.
No.
You,
1
you
to
have to
7,
do
6.
the motion, Carrie's no, I have no authority.
6-1, no, I think we move forward. We have the majority. We have 6 of us who want to move forward
Okay,
as it's written.
I gotta photograph all this stuff. Because we're done early, the last agenda item, aside from closing comments from Brian and Stephanie, is an evaluation. Now, in the past, I don't think we've had time. We've never been this far ahead of schedule. I credit you guys for that, not me. An evaluation is simply a pro-con analysis on the entire experience of the 2 days, the 23rd and today. And pros just mean this went well, we want to keep doing this, we liked it. Cons mean it didn't go well, we either fix it or delete it. In other words, this is informative to, the next retreat. If you don't want to do that or you don't care, then I'm going to throw it to the mayor and
Wanna
the
do it?
mayor pro tem.
Yep, let's do it.
You want to do the evaluation?
Yeah,
Okay, it's like, we're talking 5 minutes at the most.
Can I make a
Mayor-
motion to
Mayor
have
Pro-
the next retreat in Vegas?
we haven't allocated.
I
I actually have done retreats in Vegas.
I
The
was,
Monte Cristo.
you guys may all blow me up on this one, but I was hoping to ask a question because I feel like I need to ask it in open session. Because nothing's changing, so I want to clarify,
That was on pins and
but I
needles.
know, nothing changed. I'm not asking to change anything. I'm just curious what everybody was thinking because I'm confused on how we're in the middle of the strategic plan and it was so important and it didn't make the priorities. So I was just curious on what people were thinking on that.
I think we only had 3 dots.
I know, I think that was hard, right? When we only have 3 dots. So I was just curious.
I
So
thought it
that's
was
why I was like,
already
I
gonna
know,
get-
I'm
I
not
thought it
ready
was
to
gonna get done
change.
anyway, so I didn't waste my dots on it.
Yeah,
Okay,
same-
and that's what I was wondering.
Same thing, and I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure how much staff time it's taking up right now. Rob's taking the laboring order, isn't he?
We're all
We put a
looking.
bunch of effort in so far, but yeah, it's from here forward. It's gonna be you and Rob.
There's honestly an intersection between strategic plan and 2 or 3 of those out there.
Yep.
Okay.
So-
All right, thank you. And I thought that's what everybody was thinking. I just wanted to know and I just kind of wanted it out there since it is such a big priority and we're in the middle of it. So
So
Thank
this
you for that.
evaluation will be documented in the plan that I give Martin, Brian, and Stephanie. They are the three that I've been working with extensively to prepare for this, agendas. Martin and I have had probably over the past few months, a half dozen meetings, calls, things like that. So the idea is the pros, like I said, went well, cons didn't like it. And it's just organic. Anybody can say whatever. I've got a con and I will do the bullet. I've got a pro and I will do the bullet. And it's gonna be in the plan, or it's gonna be in the report. So it's memorialized,
And this-
using your language.
And this is fair
It's a
game.
good, it's a good word.
Fair game for staff too, since they were part of the process on the
If
comments
you
on the
want
others.
staff involved, then that's all I have to hear. So staff, pretty simple T thing, pros, cons,
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
Staff was much more engaged or maybe invited to engage this time than my recollection last time. Yeah.
Great, staff more engaged.
Perfect.
Pros, cons, anything?
I love
Continuity, we've done it 3 straight years.
Yeah. Great.
I think that continuity is part of why we're gonna be done a half hour early.
I think whoever brought the marshmallow chocolate cookies that was a pro also.
Huge con on the marshmallow. I actually do think that, in addition to the continuity and how well things flowed, I think there was, very positive dissent as well. We disagreed on some things and I think that made us better.
Yeah, the discourse was very professional, civil discourse.
I give you one more serious one, is that I thought it was very, I guess, very loose, very informal, and it made the process much more comfortable for everybody, including the staff.
After the end of the 23rd, John and I talked about that. And he said, this was great. And I asked him, and I said, do you think it's because I was less pushy this year? And he said, yeah. So essentially you're kind of and this was a private comment, but I wanted to share it with everybody. It was very purposeful.
Would council want to do more of a roundtable rather than the dais next year?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I'll put that as a con.
Yep.
Or a suggestion.
Yeah, I hate to give up this chair,
We
but
can
yeah.
move them down there.
So long as we can bring the
Good
chairs
seating
down.
is gonna be important around the roundtable though.
I'd like to
Yes.
put out, from my perspective, I think we are doing the next 2 years plan, but then we go and rechange it halfway through. So I feel like we're confusing staff because we're giving them a 2-year plan here. And then a year from now, we go and say, wait a minute, we changed our mind. We're not doing half of that 2-year plan. So I would like.
Obviously, that's a con.
Yes, so I would like to see us start to move to maybe doing the 2-year plan part every 2 years instead of every year, and only focus on pulling out the year things that need to be done that year in relation to
That's
2-year.
ridiculously pragmatic.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yes,
If I can just add on to Mayor Pro Tem's comment, I don't think we should not discuss the 2-year plan. I think there's a good opportunity for like a refresher to see, in the meeting, like, so if we're doing the 2026 council priorities, but there is some type of like, here's where we were and here's what we've done so far, like we did in the beginning of this one. I wouldn't want to completely rule it out because I find it really helpful to think through our 2-year out plans to see what we need to focus on for the year. So I liked, some element of that.
so that kind of touches on a best practice in strategic planning.
Mhm.
So, the time horizon for strategic plans has been getting shorter every year.
Mhm.
They used to be, 40, 50 years ago, they were 20-year plans. 25 years ago, 10-year plans. Now we're getting into 5 and 3 and 2, just because we're in such a dynamic environment. So let's just say you did the 2-year plan. So the idea is that you go back and review and refresh it, not completely change it.
Mhm.
What has changed? What do we need to refresh? And then, you look at then you get into the next time horizon. So I hear what you're saying. I didn't say that very well, but you get the
No,
idea.
I thought
It's
you
a
did.
rolling plan. It's
Yeah.
living. Yes.
And then, I guess maybe it's a con, but it would be great if we had more easels or more displays instead of just using the walls for all of the, whiteboards.
Okay.
Over all the documents, if there was just a couple more easels. I think.
So to
would be-
paraphrase, have the moderator better prepared.
No, because I think that comes from the city, right? The city provided
Yeah.
the content, yeah.
Well,
So-
this is just the way I do it. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's the best way or it's the right way. But if you count all of those things, that's a lot of easels.
No, absolutely, but if there was like, 2 or 3, so that we can easily see where they are, then the distance, especially if we're in a round table.
Yeah.
That would be just a recommendation that way. And then the third would be if there's any possibility to move it a little bit earlier.
Move
you know,
the session.
Move
early.
the session, especially if it's specifically a retreat, if that's possible to.
I have a con. I think that it is, the way that, and maybe sitting around the table will be helpful. But I think there are lots of times that it's like that side of the dais is busy talking and really engaged, and this side is trying to get acknowledged and not getting acknowledged.
I'm hoping the table will help that.
That's
because
what
we're
I'm
all
hoping too.
focused This way, it's hard to
Yeah, I'm hoping to.
possibly
That
shift
that would
around.
make a difference.
That does bring up one con.
Sorry, who?
There was one con,
Okay.
not very good ideas on the other side.
Say that again. Not good ideas on their side. That's funny. Do you really want me to write that? Because if you really do, I will. I did write marshmallow cookies. Any others? Yes.
Oh, I just really appreciate having having you. Not, and both you as like your professionalism, everything you give, but also just having someone who's not.
Outside facilitator.
So
Yeah.
it's both. I like you as our facilitator, but I also like the idea of, not someone who is with us every day and not staff, because it allows that opportunity.
Speaking of which, and I will turn back to you guys, but they wanted staff to be able to chime into this. So I want you to see it. So Martin, you and your staff can contribute.
No, the pro is that you keep the fee the same every year, so it's just good.
Actually, it's true. We raised our rates 5 years ago, but no, I'm serious. We made the decision that for all of our existing clients, we wouldn't do that. So, there is, yeah, absolutely. I've had some clients, I have one client that has been with us for 26 years. Anyway, if I raised his fees, he'd probably put a contract out on me. Anyway, that's so.
But they have to be uniform, unfortunately.
So our amazing staff, any pros or cons? Anything you want up here? I like that Brian said that. Okay, final call for anybody and everybody on pros and cons.
Any perspective from you? If it's final call. Oh, good.
The perspective for me is when the room runs out of energy, that's the final call. But I always ask for the final call because, everybody has a different personality and communication style. And some people are, more analytical and they need to kind of think about things. And I mentioned that I purposely slowed down and didn't push as much. And look what happened. We're getting out early. So, it's my job to read the room and to be, to honor you all because I'm in service to every one of you, including to the staff. So, I love working for the city of Mill Creek. I love living in the city of Mill Creek. I love having my business here. So, I mean, you know, again, I'm not just a hair club president, I'm a client.
That's so cool you said that. No, I'm
Well,
serious.
no, I did want to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to share a final thought, even if it isn't a pro or con, before I turn it over to our mayor and mayor pro tem to close this out.
I'll say one more thing. I really think it would be wonderful if we could figure out how to have a naming of the street sweeper competition, but I understand if we can't squeeze it in.
Whether you remember Mike Mulligan's film show.
Wow,
Yeah,
you
I
are.
know that book.
Well, the first one should be me, and the one after that would be me. Mayor.
Just a couple quick comments. Thank you, Andrew, for facilitating this again. I'm glad we did it 3 years in a row. I'm glad Stephanie brought up the point she did. Something dawned on me. Most of you know I changed jobs late last year, and the job I'm at, I was in this role. I was board president, and in our association, the president used to have a theme every year. And I don't think I realized till I sat at that table where I sit now from a day job as a staff member, that you realize the impact of that swing every year where this is our theme for the organization. Now, this is the theme for organization, and what that creates operationally. It may be well-intentioned by the people sitting in this position, but it's a pain in the backside for the people who have to implement it. And so I'll be interested to see what we come to coming out of the strategic plan, how staff and us look at the strategic or this priority setting for next year, because I can see where staff can come out of this a little bit frustrated because we keep moving the pendulum every year in different directions. So hopefully next year we can have a little more longer term stability. So, but thank you to everyone. Thank you for the citizens who stuck out 2 nights. I'm not sure if anyone is online. I don't see anyone. And thank you to staff for being prepared and everything, and look forward to doing it one more time for me. Stephanie?
Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited that we came together and we have outlined our priorities and that we have come together in a respectful manner to come up with these priorities, and that we're going forward on the same page. And I think it sets us up to get a lot accomplished this year. So great job, everyone, and great job to all the staff for all your support and all your work, and all your pivoting when we change things on you. Thank you.
So with that, that's the end of our agenda. We'll be adjourned until the 6th, next Tuesday. We adjourn at 9:08 PM. Thanks.